Are you a dungeon master? Do you want to be a dungeon master? Do you have blue face paint on your face? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, then you're just like me. Not only do you enjoy smashing players in the face with your axe every time they metagame, but you're also a busy person, and while prepping for a D&D game, well, sometimes that's hard. And as much as you'd like to force one of your players to run D&D for a change, well, they all suck, so it's pretty much up to you to be the forever dungeon master. And that's exactly why I get out my crayons every month and write a new issue of Lair magazine. Well, I mean, it's not just me, I have a team of people too. We all get out our crayons and write it, but yeah. Anyway, every issue of Lair magazine contains 5th edition Dungeon Master resources to help you reduce your prep time while still running amazing games for your lazy, good-for-nothing players. Every issue of Lair magazine contains 2 to 3 adventures complete with maps for online play. You know, we also sprinkle in other stuff like puzzles and traps, which, let's be honest, both suck to have to make yourself. So, I mean, wouldn't you rather just become a DM Lair patron and pay me to write them for you? I mean, you know, my team and I, with our crayons? Now, if you love your wonderful players as much as I do, consider helping me to meet my sales quota by becoming a DM Lair patron today at the link below. You'll get a new issue of Lair magazine every month and other cool stuff like map packs and bonus adventures. Okay, that's it. Please become a DM Lair patron now or I will find you.
Hey, what's going on, folks? I see people talking about the coldness coming our way and stuff. I'm in Michigan, so like, yeah, we're supposed to have a big storm starting today and then going through like Saturday. It's supposed to get fairly cold, high winds and stuff. They were saying like, the power might go out. This is what you do in case the power might go out. Fill your bathtub with water to help you flush the toilet. And I'm like, dude, like when the power goes out, you just don't flush. I mean, you know, but thanks for the tip. A historic storm. I mean, the problem is you can't believe anything on the news. You can't believe the news, the media, or anything because the entire mechanism by which they get your attention is by dramatizing things, by exaggerating things, but they sell negativity and gloom. It's like doom and gloom. Everything is doom and gloom and negativity and exaggerated and stuff because that's how they get your attention and that's how they sell themselves basically. So it's hard to trust and believe that stuff, you know, and you all know what I'm talking about. Just turn on, you know, the news network of your choice and that's what they have all the time. It's, you know, it's pretty much the same. So you can't trust it. I mean, we'll see. I'm sure we're going to get some snow. I won't believe that it's a historic storm to end all storms until I see it. But yeah. Amanda Whitmore, hey, what's up? You said greetings from Alaska. Cool. One of my players in my Ancient Dragon games is in Alaska. So hey, what's up? I got Orange down here. Can we go to the cat? Let's go to the cat cam. Orange is down here getting attention today. He's bugging the crap out of me right here. So that's what I'm doing with my hand. Just gotta give him attention. Otherwise, you know, he gets demanding. I'm surprised Mommy is not here. Usually when Orange is here bothering me, Mommy is also here bothering me. Mommy won. So yeah, he's just getting his big belly rubbed. And Squeaky's wandering over too. He's like, where's my attention? I want my attention too. This is not right. Not right. Not right. We should be able to change. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can do something. Whoop. Whoop. There we go. There you go. Now you can see that part of the cat cam. Rachel Fields, hello. How you doing? Good to see you. Salmon roll. Hi. I appreciate salmon. I don't like salmon. I'm just saying. Ambers, hello. Welcome. Jasper's Pearl, what's up? Cecile, hello. Shadow Cat. We're going to freeze Christmas in Florida. Is it going to be cold down there too? I mean, we always have these warm Christmases with no snow, so to get one that's cold and snow is kind of nice. I don't know. Vince says, so Luke, 600-pound gorilla in the room. How is this going to affect your business? Vince, did you just call me fat? Vince just called me a 600-pound gorilla. I mean, I kind of like gorillas. Gorillas are like insane. Gorillas are like just big, huge masses of muscle and destruction if they so wish. You know, it is nutso. Those things are nutso. I don't think, how much does a gorilla weigh though? Does a gorilla really weigh 600 pounds? Gorilla weight. No, it says a gorilla only weighs about 350 pounds. That's in captivity. So they probably weigh less out in the wild, would be my guess. But even if it's only 300 pounds, like that doesn't matter. It's gonna mess up anybody. So being referred to as a 600-pound gorilla is kind of a compliment, dude. I thank you for that. But still, don't stop calling me fat. I'm very sensitive here. We're probably gonna have to talk about that gorilla today. It would still beat up any MMA fighter. Dude, it would beat up a whole class of MMA fighters. They couldn't do anything against a gorilla. Iguanas go dormant and fall out of trees. Oh, that sounds interesting. It's like raining down around you. Oh, all right. Let's do this. Let's kick this bad boy off, which is really hard to do. I have to push a button. Hold on. Hey, hello. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The stream is now beginning. I felt like just sitting in chat for a couple of seconds, which is why we were a little slower getting going. But anyway, we're going to do a Q&A this morning. We're gonna talk about stuff. We're just gonna chill and hang out for a few hours. So yeah, that's really the plan today. You can throw your questions in the chat. My moderators will grab your questions. You want to do the hashtag caps, all caps question, and then my moderators will throw it in our spreadsheet, and I'll grab from there, and we'll answer questions. It's pretty simple. We got to do a few little of our sleazy plug announcement stuff. Some of it's sleazy, some of it's not. We are doing a giveaway. I'll probably forget to talk about the giveaway the entire stream until the very end, but we are doing a giveaway again. We do a giveaway every stream. There's a link in the chat. Hopefully Stream Elements is working. Yeah, it looks like it is. And you guys can get in on the giveaway. It's free stuff. It's a hard copy of Into the Fae, or you can get DM Lair store credit. So yeah, do that. And we usually have a charity that we're raising money for, and we kind of do. We have met our goal of $500 for Canines for Warriors. I've just been really busy and have not had a chance to, 1, make that donation, and 2, pick a new charity. So I'll get that done eventually here. In the meantime, we've hit our goal, so I won't keep plugging that, but you can continue to give, and whatever we end up raising for Canines to Warriors, I'll just contribute whatever we raise. Stream Elements keeps track of all the tips we receive, so I'll just go in and see what it is and then do a donation. So it's pretty simple. But anyway, I didn't have time to get all that updated. But yeah, so the charity is still there, but you know, we hit our goal, so what else do I normally do? I think we go to our patrons now and talk about our wonderful patrons. So let's hit that. Where's my button? Where's my button? Okay, there we go. So all these wonderful folks right here that you can see on screen right now are a list of our wonderful patrons and YouTube members. I think majority of them are just patrons. Anyway, thank you so much. These folks right here help support all of the content we create, and Kirby does a $50 tip just for kicks. Thank you, Kirby. You are amazing. We love you. And he got his name up on the screen too. Thanks, dude. You're awesome. All these wonderful patrons help support the content we create. We have tons of free resources over on the dmlair.com, provide completely free to the Dungeon Master community to use in their games. Obviously, we do the videos, we do the live streams, all the stuff we do. These guys help support it. And obviously, we have our flagship paid premium product, Lair magazine, that our patrons get as well, and they help support that. So very, very deeply appreciative to all of our wonderful patrons. They literally help me to do what I do full time. And we recently hired on 2 full-time team members as well. And so they are now providing, helping to provide a living for 3 of us, plus all of the awesome freelancers and cartographers that we commission as well to do all the different things. So our patrons are just amazing. I love you guys. Thank you so much for everything you do. You literally are paving a path and making a way forward for some of us to literally make our livelihoods in this beautiful hobby, and I do appreciate that. So now these folks right here, these pay me extra money. They support us at a greater level, so they get their names read out loud on the stream, every single stream, unless I forget, because I sometimes forget. It happens. So anyway, let's read their names. 5E Magic Shop, Aaron J, Adam B, Alex S, Amanda W, Ambers, Andre U, Angelique K, Antoine B, Art Soccer, Arutha, Ashley, Ben B, Benjamin P, Burncastle, Brendan A, Carl C, Chedif, Chad K, Chris C, Christian V, Christian B, Christopher G, Clay W, Coinslot, Contrary Gravy 7, Daniel S, Dap, Dazzwood Up, David S, Derek E, Doug, Duty K, Dungeon of Terra, Dutch, Ed R, Edward L, Mfrabo, Endorian, Eric B, Erno T, Fabian H, Flux Forest Brew, Gabriel T, Gallist, Gene A, Jeff R, Goliath Clara, Gravy Chorn, Gregory H, Harlan S, Helltong, HLD, Iron Cascade, Izzy T, Jace F, Jackie Pizza, Jake L, Jacob K, Jelenko, James L, James N, Jan F, Jason G, Jessica J, Jim P, JM, Joanne P, Joe E, John A, John H, John Pinos, Jonathan V, Joseph H, Josh S, Joshua R, Joshua W, Justin N, K, Keith L, Keith W, Kirby, Curry Claw, Kyle M, Leonhardt, Linda, Lord Pablo, Luke Magna, Malton M, Manuel G, Mark K, Marty M, Matt B, Matthew J, Matthew C, Mike S, Mirostal Mitchell, Mo 20s, Mr. Owl, Mr. Lincolnu, Nerd with Glasses, Nezzy Nomad, Old Mad Mage, O&D Penguin Butt, Pork Chop Bacon, Prophet 2.0, Psycho John Ramus, Randy B, Rebar, Renner C, Robert J, Robin B, Ron R, Ryan, Sale R, Sakura, Sam B, Scott V, Sean S, Shadow 1317, Shane L, Sheila A, Simfan, Snowy Tiggy, Son of a Sofa Man, Soul P, Soul Naya, Stephen T, Tactical Tokens, Terran, Terry V, the old DM, the new bad hombre, Thiago P, Thomas C, Thomas F, Tim B, the K, Travel and Cash, Travels the Lost, Tyler H, Tyler R, Valagor, Vladimir S, Walt O, Will M, William R, C, Worth a Lot, XX Red Drum, Yol R, Zachary J, Zombie Tommy. Woo! All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. All right, where's my button? I gotta find my button. All right, here we go. You see, I got mommy. She's just right here going at it. She's like, "Give me my attention, or I will bite you." So I gotta have like. This works okay right now because I actually only need like one hand to control my mouse. I can adjust this attention. You'll be able to see her maybe a little bit better. Let's get close up on mommy. Mommy. I get my attention. Hello, YouTube. What are you doing over there? Come over here. Come over here. You're over here off camera. Crazy mania. I need attention. All right, sorry. Everybody's like, Luke, we don't care about your cats. Answer our questions. We demand you answer our questions. No. All right, calm down, folks. We got that. Let me go over our spreadsheet here. Let's see. Conan Burns, thank you for the $5 super chat. I appreciate that, dude. We frequently don't get through all of our questions, so if you super chat, you will absolutely get your question answered. So I appreciate that, dude. Will you ever ditch 5E or 1D&D and go to OSR and why? Here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing. I watched the video from Questing Beast, whose name is Ben, I believe, and he was talking about like the Dungeon Master Crisis in 5th edition and why it exists and stuff like that. I thought it was very interesting. I agree with a lot of his points to a certain extent, except that he was describing the way that OSR runs their adventures and why OSR adventures are easier to run and why it's less work on the Dungeon Master. And literally, as Ben Milton, I believe is his full name, as he was describing the way that Dungeon Masters or Game Masters or whatever they call them in OSR, I think it's probably still Dungeon Master, but anyway, well, legally, I think they have to probably say Game Master. But anyway, as he was describing the way that a Dungeon Master runs their games and their dungeons, their location-based adventures in OSR, he literally was describing my exact methodology that I've been using for years to run almost all of my games. Like location-based adventures. I've done videos on my channel before about location-based adventures and event-based adventures and the difference between them. Most adventures that you get in official modules are location-based adventures. They just are because they're easier to run. And as he was describing, and what we publish in Lair magazine are mostly they're mostly location-based adventures. Now, we do have some one-off adventures that some of our patrons get at the higher levels that are event-based adventures. I think that's the $25 tier and above. You also get additional adventures, which are event-based adventures. Now, event-based adventures are pretty cool. They are much more challenging, one, to write, and it takes a little bit potentially more skill as a dungeon master to navigate how to do an event-based adventure. But the vast majority of things that most people publish are location-based adventures. Easier to write, easier for dungeon masters to run at the game table. And as Ben was describing how OSR does these location-based adventures that take place in dungeons or castles or locations, doesn't matter what location is, he was describing how it takes less prep time, it makes it easier for the dungeon master and all these different things. And as he was describing this, I'm just like, dude, that's like how I've been running my games for years. And not only that, but that's pretty much exactly how we publish our resources in Lair magazine. It's for 5th edition, but it follows this idea of having location-based adventures because they are easier for a game master to prep for and to run at the game table. Like that is the hallmark. Like sometimes people ask me, like, you know, what sets Lair magazine apart? Why should I care about Lair magazine? Like, it's literally right here. It's easy to use. Like, our focus is on making our resources as easy to use as possible. And so this is that's the reason, one of the reasons, besides that I just like location-based adventures, but that's one of the big reasons that we publish that way. Because exactly the things Ben was saying in his video, like it's easier to run your games that way. And so he's saying all this stuff and I'm just like, yeah, that's how I've been running my games for forever. And that's how we publish all of our resources because it's easier for dungeon masters. So yeah, I totally agree with that. So back to the original question, like, are we going to stop doing 5th edition and do OSR? Like, there are no current plans for that. The current plans are to continue publishing 5th edition stuff. But I would say that the style of our adventures, the style of our publications is certainly reminiscent of old school Renaissance in so much as I understand it at this current time. I don't think I've ever played old school Renaissance. I don't think so. It would have been at a convention. I just don't remember. But according to the way Ben was describing how OSR adventures go, I would say that that's kind of, we publish in that style, if I understand it correctly, based upon his video. Grain of salt, because I don't really know. I'm just trusting the way he was explaining it, which I believe is probably very accurate because that is his area of specialty. So I think I could probably trust him on that. So no, we're going to keep publishing 5th edition. We're going to, however, you know, it'll still be in the same style we've always done it because it's really fun to run games that way, and it makes it very easy for dungeon masters to prep their games and run their games. So we're not going to change our style, but our style is very reminiscent of OSR, even though our resources are 5th edition compatible. So that's the long and long of it for you, because there was no short there. Well, yeah, Letter Data says events are easier to use as hooks to get you to the location for an adventure. Yeah, well, yeah. a location really doesn't work for a plot hook. Like if you want to have an adventure hook or a plot hook, an inciting incident, something that gets your player's attention and like kicks off the whole adventure, yeah, usually you're going to have an event. Something's going to happen. It might be your standard tried and true, you know, the NPC quest giver approaches the party. Hello, perhaps you can help me. Or there could be, you know, Sawagan rise up out of the docks and attack the docks. And the players are there and they have to defend it really quick. And then, well, what was going on here? What the heck happened? And then they figure out the Sawagan are doing bad stuff. You know, somebody commissions them to go solve it. And then they go to the location, which would be in this case, the Sawagan Lair, right? And so, yeah, a lot of times you're going to use events to kick an adventure off because they make for very good plot hooks, right? But if events comprise the entire adventure itself, then it gets a little bit more complicated. It depends on your level of expertise and your experience, obviously. Like I would feel perfectly comfortable running an event-based adventure. Is a location-based adventure easier for me? But I could do an event-based adventure. But for folks, especially for new dungeon masters who are starting out, or those that just want to reduce their prep time and, you know, make their lives a little bit easier, location-based adventures are, you know, just easier to do in general. What is Santa bringing me for Christmas? Nothing. I don't really give Christmas presents. You know, thank you, Lord God, too, by the way, for the super chat, dude. I really appreciate that. The interesting thing is literally, this was like, it was about a week ago. My wife asked me, she's like, what do you want for Christmas? And I was like, I don't really want anything. Like, you know, like I don't want anything. I'm pretty content with what I have. I actually told her, I was like, I don't need any more stuff, any more physical stuff, you know, all clothes. I could always use more. I love t-shirts. I do. I love going to conventions and then getting t-shirts. This t-shirt is from Grand Con. By the way, if you're in the Michigan area, Ohio, Illinois, something like that, and you can drive to Michigan, Grand Rapids, Michigan is it's like, yeah, this is how we do it in Michigan, by the way. Grand Rapids is like around this area or so it's not that long of a drive if you're in a state next to Michigan. But I go to Grand Con, which is a convention in Michigan, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, like every year. And I got this shirt from Grand Con. They had a whole bunch of their old shirts at Grand Con, ones from previous years. And I always get the current shirt. Actually, you know what? I don't think I bought the current shirt for this year. The current shirt, the shirt for 2022 was not that good looking, in my opinion. It had some colors in it that I didn't like how they looked and stuff. I was kind of like, I don't like that shirt. And so I didn't get that shirt. But they had all of these old shirts, like, you know, from previous years. And I was like, cool, you know, I want that one, that one, that one, that one. And then I got a bunch of, I think I got maybe 2 or 3 of their old shirts. And so I don't know, I just like cool t-shirts. And these are like nice heavy duty cotton. I like them, they're really good. I'm on a big tangent right there. What was the original question? Oh, what Christmas? So anyway, I told my wife maybe some t-shirts or clothes or pants or something like that. I don't know, shoes or something. You know, it's interesting because when I was a kid, I hated getting clothes for Christmas, and now as an adult, as like a pre-old man, I like getting clothes. You know, I don't know. But I told my wife, I was like, you know, I don't really want any presents. You know what I really want? I told my wife, what I really want is to not work for a few days. That's what I really want. I want to get away from work and not have to work for a few days and relax, because I go nonstop. And then I told her, and I was like, but we already have a trip planned right after Christmas, and so I'm already getting that, you know. So maybe what we can do is on our vacation we can go, you know, look around for some clothes and stuff for me. And stuff. I don't know. So yeah, we're probably just gonna do some clothes shopping over our vacation. That's the kind of stuff that I like nowadays. Just get away from work, go on vacation, find me some. I actually need new shoes. I have my pair of shoes that I use for like the gym and everywhere else. I've had for I think a couple years now, and they're starting, the inside of the shoes, like where you step on all the time, the insoles or whatever, they're all worn away and they're starting to like crumble and stuff. And I'm just waiting for the day that I walk outside when it's wet and I can feel my socks getting wet, because then that obviously indicates that there's a hole in the shoe, right? I'm just waiting for that day to happen, and I'm like, I should buy new shoes before that happens, because I do that. Like, I just don't buy new shoes until like I absolutely need them. I don't have a whole ton of I have like boots and some gym shoes and winter boots, but I don't have a ton of shoes, and you know, I just kind of wear them out until they're destroyed, and then I buy new ones. And so my current gym shoes are getting to the point where I need new ones, but I'm probably going to order them online, because I found a pair of shoes that are amazing. I love them, and I have to get these exact same shoes again. I might order 2 pairs of them just in case they go out of they discontinue making them, because I love those shoes that I got. So anyway, there you go. That's my Christmas plans. All right. Did you get the NDA letter? I don't think last I checked, I didn't. Let me go and check my inbox. I probably didn't. I'm looking at my inbox right now. I don't think I did. I don't see anything. Nah, it doesn't look like I got the NDA letter that Nerd Immersion was talking about. Nah, I doubt that I'm gonna get that. Wizards doesn't like me a whole lot. They're not gonna share anything with me. I'm too overly critical of some of the things they do. I'm too honest is my problem. So I don't think they like me. I just refuse to sell out. I refuse to become the fanboy who blindly supports everything that they do, you know, because I just can't do that. I don't have I have too much integrity, I suppose, to do that, is the way I would say it from my point of view. Okay, let's get some more questions here. Did the 1D&D OGL post make you more, same, or less positive towards the next edition? Bonus, still consider it as a new edition after that. It's definitely a new edition, though. It's marketing rhetoric to say that it's not a new edition. It's a new edition, folks. Now, will stuff for 5th edition technically work in 1D&D? I think it probably will, but because of the power creep that will be in 1D&D, and the fact that characters are going to be better in 1D&D, nobody's going to want to use the old stuff. And the fact that there's going to be a bit of power creep in 1D&D is going to make old modules and stuff not really work a whole lot, and you're going to have to really update them and do a lot of massaging, which honestly most dungeon masters do anyway, regardless. So I'm not too concerned about that, you know. And honestly, when you take a module and you have to tweak a few things and update it for your particular group, a lot of times that's fun and that's enjoyable for dungeon masters. So I don't know. I personally am kind of like meh about it. I can see why, you know, folks would not like it and get worked up about it, and it makes sense. And you know, I can understand that point of view. Personally, I'm not concerned about it. You know, now for a new dungeon master, somebody who's not sure how to update stuff, yeah, they could really get screwed, and that's not cool. They could buy something. They could buy Curse of Strahd for 5th edition and think that they can just plug and play with 1D&D when it comes out, and they're going to have a big rude awakening in place when their players are steamrolling everybody and defeat Strahd at like level 7, which they could probably defeat Strahd at level 7 already, because Strahd in the module is super weak and frankly a letdown. I had to beef him up a whole bunch when I ran it, and then my players still weren't that threatened by him. Like, if you analyze the battle, they weren't that threatened by it, and I beefed him up a lot, and he had a bunch of tricks up his sleeve that were making the artifacts that the characters had like less useful against him. You know, they still were effective, but they weren't nearly as useful, and they had to do certain things to bypass his defenses so that they would get the full use of the effects of those artifacts. And so I beefed him a whole bunch and made him really as challenging as I felt that it was reasonable to do, without just totally just saying none of your stuff works. And they still I don't think had that hard of a time defeating him. So anyway, what's my point? Where was I going? Okay, I got on a tangent again. But as far as like the OGL that they came out with, does it make me more the same or less positive toward using the next edition? Honestly, my opinion on using the next edition has remained unchanged. It really hasn't affected my opinion nor my stance on the next edition. I personally, as a dungeon master for my personal games, do not plan to use 1D&D. I do not plan to use it at all whatsoever. It looks like I'm going in and out of my stream output. It's back to green now. I'm not going to play 1D&D. I'm just not going to do it. For my own personal games, there's a reason that I have this book sitting on my desk at all times, because I'm constantly reading it. Because for my own personal game that I run with my group here now at my place, we're going to be playing Pathfinder 2.0. That's what we're going to be doing. We're getting away from 5th edition. I'm not going to go to 1D&D with them. So we're going to be playing Pathfinder 2.0. And for the other, I have some other games that I run. I have a youngling group that I run 5th edition for. We're playing through the Icewind Dale module right now. We're just going to stick with 5th edition, for them. And I have a patron group as well. I have a group of patrons that play D&D with me. I'm going to keep playing 5th edition with them as well. We're not going to start using 1D&D. We're just not going to upgrade. We're going to keep with 5th edition rules because, we all have those books, I'm not going to require them to buy new books and stuff to be able to keep playing with us. I don't think that would be right. And quite frankly, I don't know if I'm going to even buy the 1D&D stuff. The only reason, and by the way, for patrons who play in one shots with me, because one of the things that I do for my patrons as well is that I do a monthly one shot D&D game, and I choose the players from my different patrons. And those games are going to continue to be in 5th edition as well. We're not going to transition over to 1D&D. I just want to keep playing 5th edition. There's nothing wrong with 5th edition. It works really well. I'm familiar with it. I like it. It's enjoyable. I see the move to 1D&D honestly is a money grab. You can't see it as any other way. Wizards of the Coast has a mandate from Hasbro to increase revenue by 50% over the next 3 years. And, celebrating their 50th anniversary of D&D with 1D&D is a way for them to basically increase their revenues. So it's similar to how they celebrated Magic the Gathering's 30th anniversary with their collector's edition card pack for $1,000 for cards that were not playable and not usable in official games and stuff. So that's how we celebrate things, by getting more money out of people's pockets. But where am I going? As far as my using 1D&D, I currently I don't even know if I'm going to buy the books. I'm probably going to end up buying the books. And the only reason that I would buy the books is because for our publications, for Lair magazine and the Kickstarters we do and stuff like that, they're for 5th edition. But at some point, we're probably going to have to include some little sidebars and stuff that say, hey, if you're running 6th edition, which is what we're going to call it, if you're running 6th edition, here's how you might consider adjusting the adventure. Here's how you might consider adjusting this trap or this puzzle or something. And so probably at some point when 1D&D comes out, as a publisher of 5th edition content, I'm going to want to start considering people who are playing 1D&D that are getting our resources, because they're going to want to know, hey, I'm not doing 5th edition anymore, I'm doing 6th edition. Do I need to adjust the adventure at all to account for 6th edition? And the answer is probably going to be yes. You probably will need to. And so this is what I'm hypothesizing. We don't know yet. Obviously, everything is up for consideration. What I'm hypothesizing is that we're going to have a sidebar, perhaps, that just says, hey, if you're running 6th edition, here are some things you should consider adjusting so that this adventure works well with 6th edition. And I think it's probably just going to be a sidebar. It probably is not going to have to be anything too complicated, because I think mostly what we're going to deal with is power creep. Things are going to get a little bit more, character options are going to get more powerful in 1D&D, and we're going to have to account for that in our publications. But I think that's the only adjustment we're going to have to make. So my point is that I'll probably end up buying the 1D&D books just so that I can become familiar with the rule system, so that my team and I can take that into consideration in our publications and like maybe little sidebars that we do. So it'll be purely from a business standpoint that I get the books, so that our business can continue to deliver high quality products to our customers. As far as me personally using 1D&D in my games, I do not foresee that happening. Now, you know, you can always change your mind on things, so who knows what's going to happen. But that's currently kind of like what my thoughts are around that. Now, so as far as like talking about the open gaming license, that Wizards made a little post about the open gaming license, and we should probably talk about that really quick here, because I'm sure folks are wondering about that. So we'll do that in a second, but first, the Barbarian has something for you.
Hi, Barbarian here. Did you see my last sleazy plug? You know, the one where I talked about Lair magazine and tried to convince you to become a DM Lair patron? Yeah, well, I'm not gonna do all that work over again. So could you just go rewatch that plug and then, you know, become a DM Lair patron at the link below? Please, you know, just don't make me threaten you with my axe. My doctor tells me I gotta, you know, keep my blood pressure under control. Thank you.
Yeah, Tashio made a point too. He said maybe they'll surprise us and release some majorly impressive system. It's possible. I mean, I don't know. If Wizard pulls like the most shocking move and 1D&D is actually amazing, then maybe I start playing it. I don't know. Here's the thing. Most of their products that they're coming out with are very disappointing. Right now, their products have been disappointing me for quite some time. I've actually stopped buying almost all of their products because it started to get to the point where I was getting their products and I was kind of disappointed in them. You know, like they released, for instance, case in point, the Spelljammer box set, right? The Spelljammer box set retailed for, if I remember correctly, $80. And this is all based on memory, and my memory's not super spectacular, so forgive me if I got my details a little off. But the Spelljammer box set retailed for $80. $80, that's a lot. So when you open that bad boy up, you get 3 little booklets, right? How many pages long is each of those booklets? I believe it was about 50 pages. So you have 150 pages of content for $80. Compare that with any of the other books they published, except for Sword Coast Guard. Adventurer's Guide to Sword Coast Guard is not Sword Coast Guard. Adventurer's Guide to the Sword Coast, or whatever it was, is SCAG or whatever, is absolutely abysmal product and horrible. It's just bad. But most of their products, you get roughly 300 pages. Some are bigger, right? But usually you get around 300 pages of content for $50. 300 pages of content, $50. Versus 150 pages of content for $80. There's a huge discrepancy in like content versus value between most of their books they published and then Spelljammer. And then of course you have people that will rightfully so point out that Spelljammer doesn't include rules for space battle, is my understanding. So it's like, wow, you know, you skimped on the product, you didn't deliver a whole lot, and then you omitted something that seems like it's fairly important in Spelljammer, which occurs in space. That's my understanding of it. So so it's like, wow, geez, it really seems like the quality of your products is declining. So 1D&D, maybe the quality of their current products is taking a nosedive because they have most of their team solely focused on 1D&D. And thus 1D&D is going to be amazing. Maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not super optimistic about it. But it's possible. So if 1D&D comes out and it is hands down amazing, then yeah, sure, I might really consider using it, because I'm not, you know, it's like, well, maybe you do, right? So yeah, the jury's out on that. We'll have to see when it actually happens, you know, whether it's actually spectacular or not. Okay. So we should talk about the open gaming license update. And I know there are other questions, and I think there was a super chat. And I'll get to that. I'm not ignoring you. I'm ignoring you temporarily so that I can finish this train of thought, and then I'll get to your question. So the open gaming license that they released, they didn't release a new open gaming license. They released a statement about it. So I just want to look at it really quick. I'm gonna get it over here to the screen so that I can share my screen with you, and then we're gonna just take a look at their open gaming license. All right, center monitor. Let's see if my center monitor is working properly. No, it's not. I have the wrong monitor set up. Okay, hold on. Let me fix that. I'm gonna have to actually go over to that monitor, I believe. Stand by. For some reason, the monitor I have 3 monitors, and it just resets the monitor that gets displayed here, so I just have to adjust it really quick for you. Okay, there we go. All right, so they released this statement right here that talks about the open gaming license, because there was a lot of hoopla, people getting worked up and stuff, you know, and being like, there's not gonna be an OGL. You know, people getting all bent out of shape about not having an OGL for 1D&D. And so there was a lot of stuff going on. There was a meltdown on the internet, and so Wizards released this presumably, as they say, before they were ready to talk about it. And so they got this out there, and I read through it and stuff, and I've spoken with some folks about it, and I know some folks who are very, very familiar with the OGL and stuff, and I've gotten some input and stuff, and I've just thought it through too. And this doesn't really concern me, honestly, at a high level. I'm not really concerned about this because they're going to be releasing a new version 1.1. I don't publish under version 1.1. Lair, what's my brand name? The DM Lair publishes under version 1.0a, and we can continue to publish 5th edition content under version 1.0a of the OGL. So we do not have to use this new version that they come out with. If we want to publish 1D&D stuff specific to 1D&D, then we would have to presumably use version 1.1. But we don't plan on specifically we plan on publishing for 5th edition, right? And we might have a sidebar that explains, you know, how you might change things for 6th edition. But we're not going to tell people how to change things for 1D&D, because 1D&D is not a new edition, right? 1D&D is the next evolution. So we're not going to talk about 1D&D or even make reference to it at all. We're just going to talk about 6th edition, which does not exist legally nor officially. So we don't have to really worry too much about that. In my opinion, we're just going to continue under the previous gaming the OGL that exists. Now, so that's basically as far as like why I'm not worried and how, in so much that it impacts our business. I'm not worried about it. I'm just going to keep using the previous license. Now, as far as some of the other things in here, I mean, there were a couple things in here that I thought were interesting. We got some corporate required introduction stuff here. We want to clear the air and share the facts with you. Please take everything that a large company says with a big grain of salt. And when they say that they're sharing the facts with you, that should send off red flags, honestly, especially when they have a history of being less than genuine. When they've said things like, it's not a new edition, it's the next evolution, and they have like overly dramatic music in the background, just take these sorts of statements with a grain of salt is my suggestion. And then when transparency, big corporations usually don't. They aren't usually transparent. That's not a thing companies do, generally speaking. Their legal departments and HR departments don't usually recommend that they're fully transparent. They'll tell you some things, but it's not going to be everything. So just take this little bit of thing here with a grain of salt is my recommendation to you, based upon my experience working in and with big companies. So basically the things are going to change. For the most part, this will affect nobody except for people who actually make money from. If you're going to use version 1.1, which would be to publish stuff for 1D&D, and you're going to make money from it, which is commercial, you're going to make commercial, you have to do these things. If you're making any money at all, if you're selling the content, right, you have to accept license terms and let us know what you're offering for sale. So there's going to be some bureaucracy and forms involved, and they talk about that a little bit down here, and we'll get to that in a second. And then they also say that you're going to have to report OGL related revenue annually if you make more than $50,000 in a year. We're going to delve into that a little bit more depth as well. And then include a creator project badge on your work. We have no other information about that. I don't know what that's going to be or what that means. So I can't really delve into that. And then there's another thing down here about a royalty requirement for people who make over $750,000 in a year, $7,500 in income in a year. They're going to require you to pay royalties, and you only have to pay royalties on the amount above that. So if you make, $1 million selling stuff that uses license 1.1, version 1.1, then you're going to have to pay a royalty on $250,000, $250,000. It's not the whole chunk. It's just whatever's above $750,000, which is what they're saying here. Now, this of course is not the actual license. The license isn't coming out. It hasn't come out yet. So this might all change. You don't know until you actually have the license published. Now, of course, many people like me have, saved this as a PDF so that I have a record of what they said. So if things change, I can be like, see, I told you not to trust them. But hopefully they won't do that. That would be a new level of sleaze. But hopefully they're not going to do that. But anyway, we'll just take them at their word, and this is how things are going to work, because otherwise we're just speculating, and that's kind of pointless. So anyway, let's talk about this a little bit more in depth. So accepting the license terms and let us know what you're offering for sale. Okay, so my first question is, this is bureaucracy, this is paperwork, okay? Now, there's gonna have to be a mechanism by which we can do this. Now, they do say that you're gonna have a web portal for registration to make navigating these requirements as easy and intuitive as possible. Okay, big clause there, as possible. I have worked for big corporations, and whenever there is paperwork involved and bureaucracy involved, it is never easy, it is never intuitive, okay? So as possible is an important clause because it won't be, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's going to be easy, and I don't think it's going to be intuitive, because when you you're starting to get into legal stuff here. This is like legal requirements and filling out forms and stuff. I suspect that this is going to be more complicated than their statement here would leave us to believe, right? It's probably going to be kind of complicated, in my opinion. All right, so that's the first point. So, and you have to report your revenue annually if you make more than $50,000 in a year. Now, my big question on this, the big question I had is, okay, well, report my revenue. So I just go into a field on a form and just write in what I made, right? Is it as simple as that? I don't think so. I don't think that would be good enough to just go into a form and just put your revenue in. Like, if you're a company like them and you're requiring this information, I have a feeling that they probably want it to be verified. So now they might just allow most people to enter a simple value and take their word for it. But if you have somebody who's making something more significant, they're probably going to want proof of it, which is reasonable. It's reasonable to require proof, because otherwise I can go in there and lie and just say a number and they have no way to know that if I'm lying or not. So I think it would be fair on their part to require proof of your actual revenue. And so that leads us into the next question, like, how would they require proof? Well, there are two ways to do it. I have my bookkeeping, like I literally I pay a company to do my bookkeeping, and so I have all my bookkeeping and I could just show them my books, right? Do I want to show them my books? Probably not. If I'm not willing to show them, so then okay, if somebody's not willing to show them their books, or there are some people who don't even do books, they don't even do accounting. Some people who are making this money just kind of like, they don't have an LLC set up, they don't have separate bank accounts, they totally commingle personal finances with business finances, and it's a hot mess. And so for folks like that, good gravy, so anybody, but if you do keep your books and you don't want to share your books with Wizards, well, the question is, well, then what are you going to do? Well, you have a third party do an audit, right? You have a third party that's unaffiliated with you or with Wizards come in and do an audit of your business and your books. And then they could make a report to Wizards that verifies. I'm just hypothesizing. This may or may not work this way or something. I'm just kind of thinking about how this could happen, how this could work. And I don't know. I'm not an expert on these things. This is my personal opinion. Take it with a big grain of salt. But a third party could come in and audit my books and then produce a report to Wizards that says, the DM Lair made X amount. And then that's more credible. That's probably considered reasonable evidence of my actual earnings. So at that point, I have to ask myself, well, who's paying for that third party audit? I guarantee you it's not Wizards, it's me. So either I'm sharing my books with them, or I'm having a third party do an audit, and I'm paying for it. And honestly, if I were Wizards, I wouldn't want somebody to share their books with me, because then I have to look through them and it takes time. I would rather get a simple, clean report from a third party audit that just tells me what they actually make in a year. And so my suspicion is that for people who are making significantly more than $50,000 a year, they're probably going to have to prove that income through a third party audit. That would be my guess. I'm speculating. I really don't know. I'm wondering from a business standpoint how Wizards might handle that. You know what I mean? So that's my suspicion, but I'm just guessing, honestly. So take it with a grain of salt. Okay. The creator badge, we have no idea what the heck that is, so we have nothing we can say on that. Now they do say for the fewer than 20 creators worldwide who make more than $750,000 in income a year, we would add royalties starting in 2024. So let's talk about that. Now, the first thing I want to say is there are way more than 20 creators that are making over that threshold. I 100% guarantee you, 100%, it's way more than that, okay? And that's gross. I'm considering gross, right? The DM Lair isn't there, but between our Kickstarters and our Patreon, we're coming up to that. We're kind of getting close-ish. And I know that if I'm getting close-ish, and my team is getting close-ish to that, there are lots of other people that are over that threshold, right? Gross. We're talking gross. So after expenses, that number doesn't look nearly as big, right? So first of all, I don't think that is true, that there are fewer than 20. I think there are a whole lot more than that. Now the royalty thing on over the $750,000, I have a feeling that some people are going to get upset about that because they're going to say that this is just a greedy corporate company that just wants to take more money from people. The other side of that coin is, hey, you are making money on their IP, on their intellectual property. Like they have established the Dungeons and Dragons brand, and there's a massive customer base around it. And now, if you are going to use the new license version 1.1 and you're going to make a bunch of money off from their intellectual property that they're doing marketing for, that they're doing customer acquisition for, and you're going to now make a bunch of money off from a lot of the work that they've done. Now, you can think what you want about Wizards of the Coast, whether you like them or whether you don't like them. The fact of the matter is that people who create content are making, and they're making a good amount of money on it. They're making that money because Wizards is doing a lot of stuff to get more visibility in the hobby, acquire more customers and stuff like that, And so you can easily make the argument that, hey, look at, you paying a royalty is kind of reasonable, like you're literally, your business is based around making content on their IP, so paying a royalty, you could argue, is a reasonable thing for them to ask. And they only want royalties on companies that are making $750,000 and above, and they're only going to take that royalty off from the amount above $750,000. And so, from my point of view, if I think about if it were my business, if I were publishing stuff and people were going to start using my products to make a bunch of money, from a business standpoint, it's like, wow, man, I have done a lot of work over the last 5 years or so that I've been doing what I've been doing to establish, a customer base and my products and stuff. And now if another company were to start capitalizing on that, I'm like, geez, it is actually reasonable that they should pay a royalty based upon, so I don't think that this is unreasonable. This, from a business standpoint, this is completely reasonable. Now, Will some people say that this is an example of corporate greed and just trying to get more money and stuff? Sure, there are going to be folks that say that. But my point is that I don't think it's unreasonable from a business standpoint. Regardless of your feelings about Wizards of the Coast, it's not unreasonable. That's my point. And I think that's most of what I had to say about it that I could think of off the top of my head. So anyway, if you got more questions about that, throw them in the chat and we could probably talk a little bit more about that. But we're not going to do the whole doomsday scenario thing that other people are doing, because I don't think it's a doomsday. I think we're going to be just fine. All right. And we got a whole bunch more questions. We got some super chats. I'll get to your super chats in a second. But first, a message from our lovely Barbarian.
Hi, Barbarian here. Are you enjoying this content? Would you like to have me guilt trip you really quick? Because here's the thing. My team and I work really hard to create all this content. The videos, the stupid shorts, the TikTok garbage, these Q&A live streams, the adventure creation live streams, all of this stuff. All the free Dungeon Master resources on the dmlair.com and Lair magazine, which is just amazing and beautiful. Anyway, here's the problem. My team doesn't work for free, and Mrs. Barbarian always wants me to take her out to eat, like every single day almost. And I mean, I like Olive Garden and Texas Roadhouse, but all of those margaritas get really expensive. And you know, if I don't pay the people on my team, they just kind of stop working. I don't get it. Anyway, here's how you can help me help you. Basically, you can just take a whole bunch of cash, you know, put it into an envelope and mail it. No, wait, hold on. Let me think about that. No, you know what? This is the 21st century. Just give me your credit card number. Okay, forget all of that. My lawyers have advised me to instead request that you become DM Lair patrons at the link below. I mean, it still allows you to send me money, but it's legal and you get cool stuff in return. For instance, every month you'll get a new issue of Lair magazine, which contains tons of Dungeon Master resources like adventures, puzzles, traps, monsters, magic items, and more. You see, I'm not just asking for a handout, which is what a lot of people do with their Patreons. I'm actually going to give you stuff in return. So yeah, just, you know, kind of click that link below and become a DM Lair patron, you know, so I can stop putting my foot in my mouth. Thank you.
All right, sweet. Also, reminder that we are doing a giveaway today. So if you want to get a hardcover of Into the Fae or DM Lair store credit, where you can get things like Lair magazine and other cool stuff, there's hopefully a link somewhere down below where you can enter the giveaway, and then we'll draw the winner to the giveaway at the end of the stream too. I might need someone to remind me to do that because I'll forget. There was, what was it? No, I don't think there was a stream not too long ago where I almost forgot to draw the winner of the giveaway, and I think people were shouting at me. There was another stream where I was doing something stupid too, and people were shouting at me in the chat and trying to get my attention. Okay, let's hit some of our super chats that we had here. Thank you, Amanda Whitmore, for the $5 super chat. I appreciate that. Can you answer Flying Dutchman's question? It's a little above. I have the same issue. Okay, my party argues a lot about what to do in the game, and the game is moving very slow. What can I do to make them listen to me more? Well, those are two different problems, or issues, concerns, whatever. So we'll hit the first one. My party argues a lot about what to do in the game, and the game is moving very slow. Yeah, I've dealt with that before. I've made videos on that before. There needs to be a mechanism by which they make a decision. And what I've often done in my games is players need to be allowed to talk about these things. They need to be allowed to take part in that decision-making process. Because unless you're running a completely linear game where there are no options whatsoever, and there's only one possible thing they can do, which I don't recommend doing your games that way necessarily, then they're going to have to talk about options and what they're going to do to overcome the situation in front of them. So you need to give them the time and space to be able to talk about those things. But the thing is that there comes a time that they've talked about it too much, They've discussed it and analyzed it and looked at it and turned it over, you know, and they're just like, and then they're going in circles. And now they're talking about things all over again. And then as you're observing this and listening to this, you can see that they're spinning their wheels now. They're no longer talking about new things, and they're just like, and things aren't going anywhere. A decision must be made, but they can't make a decision. At that point, when you see that happening, they've already talked about it and enough time has gone by. And especially if you see that there's only like 2 players that are actually talking about it anymore, and all your other players have checked out and are like, all right, let's see what's going on the Twitter feed, or oh really, we're all annoyed about Elon again. Okay, or Facebook, or you know, and they're all just kind of like checking out, and there are 2 players who are the only ones discussing it. But if you see that, it is time to step in and be like, guys, we're done. You know, do it diplomatically, right? But the guys, you guys have talked about this enough. I think a decision needs to be made in order to move the game forward. So, how do you guys want to make the decision? It is clear that you guys aren't able to do it or something. So what do we need to do here? Can we roll dice? You have 3 options. Do we roll a D6 to decide which of the 3 options you go on? Do we have a party leader who makes the final call? Do we put it to a vote? Do we simply vote on it? And then that is what we abide by. You must step in at some point so that a decision can be made. You have to force it somehow. Now, some people might whine and complain that that's taking away agency or something, but it's like, yeah, maybe, but come on, guys. Do you really want to sit there for a half an hour to an hour discussing playing the game when you could just make a decision and go play the game? So you got to step in at some point and force a decision one way or another. Voting is good. Rolling a dice can be good. If you have like a leader of the group who makes the final decision, maybe that works. But here's the thing. There might be one player who's really upset that you didn't do it that way and that you did this way or something, and they're just like, ah! But I guarantee you're going to have all of your other players who are going to be like, thank you for getting this game moving again, Mr. and Mrs. Dungeon Master. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for having some and not just sitting there and letting us squander our gaming time for the next hour because nobody could make up their mind. So there might be some people that don't like the fact that you step in and push the issue, but you're going to have a lot of players that do appreciate it, like a lot. So keep that in mind. So that's my advice on it. You step in and you do something about it. Don't let them just sit there and spin their wheels forever. What can I do to make them listen to me more? I don't know what they're not like. That's a totally separate thing. I don't see how that relates to arguing about what they're going to do. Yeah, I don't know what that means. You're going to have to clarify that. I'm sorry. Listen to you regarding what? Okay, here's another super chat. Lord God, thank you for the $5 super chat. Are you allowed to have multiple creators? Could the DM layer, GM layer, DM hub, one DM layer and cap all those creators at $50,000? I have no idea the answer. That's a legal question. I'm not a lawyer. I have no idea. I would just be speculating. My suspicion would be one from a position of integrity. That would be the sleaziest thing to do in the world. And I am not one to do stuff like that. That to me just seems like absolute total sleaze. First of all, sleaze to sleaze to sleaze to be. No integrity whatsoever. You're just trying to scam the system essentially at that point. And so I would not do that. I think that's just wrong. You know, it's kind of like if you're familiar with money laundering. If you've ever laundered money before, you're familiar with money laundering. I actually had to take corporate training all the time on money laundering, so I'm familiar with some of the rules around it. What I actually remember. But there's like a reporting requirement. I think it's like $5,000. Like if you deposit or withdraw like a certain quantity, I think it's about $5,000. A financial institution is required to report that to the government. It might be the IRS or the SEC or something. I don't know who it is, but they got to report it to somebody. There's a reporting requirement. But there's a thing where you can do structured withdrawals and structured deposits that equal $5,000. But what you do is you don't deposit $10,000 at once or take out $10,000 at once. You structure your deposits, you structure your withdrawals. So as I deposit 500 and then it's 3,500 and then it's 2,000. So people who structure their deposits and withdrawals intentionally to get around the reporting requirement is also illegal too, if you're trying to intentionally circumvent that reporting structure. So if somebody were to try to circumvent the $50,000 thing in the new license or something, I can't imagine that would go well for them. Like, that's probably not going to work very well. And here's the other thing too. Do you know how much work that is? Do you know how much work it is for me? Let's just pretend that let's just imagine a wonderful world where I make like $1 million a year gross on my business. All right. And then in order to avoid all of these like reporting requirements, I create a whole bunch of individual entities that each of them individually makes under $50,000. The work required to set that up and the work required to make sure that none of these entities cross that threshold ever, and the marketing required to only plug those certain things, then oh my gosh, you are talking about a nightmare, a logistical night. It would cost me more money to structure my business that way than it would be to just comply with their reporting requirements. It would cost me more money to structure my business that way if you consider the time and effort my team would have to go through, the opportunity cost that we would suffer to structure my business so that no single entity under my umbrella makes more than $50,000 a year. Would cost me way more money than to simply comply with their reporting requirements and to give them a royalty if we make above the $750,000. Like, there's no question in my mind. Like, I haven't even done the math. I'm just thinking about how complex it would be. And I'm just like, that would be so horribly complex. I would lose money. In order to spite Wizards of the Coast, I would have to lose money. No, man, no. I'm just gonna comply. If we use the new license, the new version 1.1, complying with them is way easier than going through that particular hoop. So yeah, no, that's not happening. It's a good idea though. No, not happening. And it would be complete lack of integrity from a business standpoint. It would be like sleaze, duplicity, and just, all levels of like shame, in my opinion. All right. Thank you for the super chat, Mac Oliver. I appreciate that. How can I ensure that my players are properly warned of potential dire consequences, or should I let them face the music if I deem it warranted? Little guy, calm down. Hey. I got a whole bunch of cats here that are gathering for treats and stuff, so we're gonna have to give them some treats here in a second. I'll answer this super quack first. Mac, I have done it both ways. There are times that I will give them a warning if they're pursuing something that I know will have consequences. It's kind of a courtesy. I feel like it's a courtesy because here's the thing. When you're a player in a game, in a fantasy world, like, you don't necessarily know what would happen if you did certain things. Like, for instance, in the real world, if I go into Walmart and I just whack somebody in the face, they're out cold. Boom. I guarantee you I'm gonna be charged for assault. All right. If the person, a lot of times when people get punched in the face, the most of the damage doesn't actually come from the punch. It comes from hitting their head against a hard surface, such as the floor. And so if they hit their head and they suffer, a concussion or something even worse, I could have some serious charges leveled against me in real life, right? However, in a fantasy world, I don't know if that's how the rules that actually apply. I don't know how my dungeon master runs their game necessarily. Now, if I played with them a while, I probably would. But maybe I don't know a particular instance, and so I might walk into my role playing with underlying assumptions that are not true. And so if I see my players discussing something or considering doing something that I know would have dire consequences, but I'm not sure they understand the consequences, I will step in and I'll say, hey guys, I know you're thinking about, okay, we're playing in the Eberron setting and the dwarves have this fortified bank. You guys are talking about breaking into the bank. I want you to know that in this game world, breaking into a bank like that is going to have dire consequences. Even if you get away with it, there are security measures in place. You know, the dwarves, the entire what is it? The entire, what do they call those things? The rune marks, the house, the entire house Kundark, I believe is the name of it. The entire house Kundark is probably going to be out to get you, and it's not going to be good. So just be aware, and your characters would know this, by the way. Your characters would know this. So they would know that if you try to, or even succeed in breaking into a vault, and they have any inkling of who you are, House Kundark is after you, and there are dire consequences. Like, this is bad. So I want you to be aware, in part because your characters would know that there could be serious consequences. Now, you're welcome to do what you want, right? But I want you to know that this is some of the stuff that could happen. And so, yes, I will at times step in so that they're aware of things that could potentially happen, because I don't want them, especially if it's something their character would know. I would want the players to know as well. Now, in some cases, maybe their character wouldn't know, but I might still step in because I have to consider the game, right? The integrity of the game and keeping the game together. I don't want to have my players unknowingly do something that brings down dire consequences, because then as a dungeon master, I'm like, oh man, that's kind of like a gotcha. I kind of, in a way, I feel like I failed because they did this thing that was bad and brought consequences, but they didn't know any better. And then boom, the consequences come. And that feels unfair to me. And so I want them to know that there could be consequences. Now, there are some things that they know there are consequences, and they know that it's bad, and they know bad things are going to happen. In that case, I don't say anything because they already know. And my conscience is clear, so to speak. And so the answer is yes. Sometimes I step in, sometimes I don't. I use my judgment. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong time to do it or not to do it. But I would err on the side of letting them know rather than not letting them know, because then at least they can make an informed decision. And then they're not surprised when the consequences happen. All right, let's give our cat some treats really quick, and then we'll keep going. Woo! Whoops, hit my camera. Watch this. You guys want to see a magic trick? Watch this magic trick. Look at that. Look at this magic trick. Now, who in chat has their own cats running toward them at this point? Because their own cats heard that. That's the real question. Y'all need to relax. Y'all need to relax. All right. Now, you feed them like chicken. Woo. And my dog just woke up. And my dog wants treats now too. Squirty, what are you doing, Squirty? I'm gonna give my dog a bone. Squirty. Feed my dog. Zoe. What are you doing, Zoe? You want some too? Come here. Come here, baby. Here you go. Over there. Over there. Zoe. My dog is blind, so she can't actually find it. She's sniffing all over the place. I had to put her nose in it. But she got a bone. My dog got a bone too. All right, let's keep going with the questions. Wow. How do you manage equipment when a character dies and the player makes a new one? So there are a couple ways you could do this. If the party has access to the dead character's body and all of their equipment, then the party usually just keeps that equipment because most of it has been earned through gameplay. And then the player makes a new character, and that new character gets their starting equipment, but they don't get magic items and stuff. You don't give them like starter magic items. If the party kept the old character's equipment and has all the magic items from the old character, and they have all the loot and stuff from the old character, I wouldn't give the new character anything special and extra, because then you're really just giving an infusion of extra reward, gold pieces, and magic items to the party. And especially if you run a game that has a high death rate, you're gonna find if you give new characters starter magic items and additional gold and money and stuff, then you're going to find that you are infusing more and more treasure and rewards into your game every time somebody dies. And the thing is that 5th edition is really poorly done, and the economy in 5th edition is really poorly done, in so much that people usually are swimming in gold pieces and stuff, and they have nothing to spend them on and do with them. So there's really no reason to introduce more into the economy every time a player dies. So that's how I would generally do it. If you have a player that dies and then they get a new character and stuff. Got that one. Have you thought about making a Lair issue that makes it hard for DMs just once, like an issue for forever DMs with experienced players, event adventures, PS Go Lions? I don't really watch football a whole lot. I was happy to see that the University of Michigan Wolverines were undefeated this year. They totally were undefeated and they beat Ohio State. Yay. That excited me when I saw that. I was so excited. That made me so happy. It was like a little happy spot in my heart that lit up. But I don't really follow it. No, we're not going to do that for Lair magazine. I've never thought of that, but I can tell you that we're not going to do that. I don't know if that would be fair to everybody else who doesn't want that. I'm sure there would be some people who would want that, but most people probably wouldn't, like our product, one of the defining traits of Lair magazine and the products that we create is that we try to make them easy to use for dungeon masters. So, and so to make an issue that's intentionally more difficult and challenging, I feel like that would be the wrong thing to do for our patrons and our customers. Now we do have event-based adventures that we do have event-based adventures that go out as standalone adventures, and those get published to our patrons at the $25 and above tiers. But I don't think we're gonna intentionally make stuff hard to run, if that's what the question is. What do I do if my party do not want to go somewhere I have not planned them to go till further in the campaign? Wow, there were so many negatives in there. I think I have a triple negative in that question, so I have to like decodify what that question means. It's not a double negative, it's like a triple negative. So let me think about what you're trying to ask there for a second. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm just trying to figure it out. If you haven't planned on them going there and they don't want to go there, then I think you're fine. My dog ran all my cats off. The cats all ran away because my dog is out trying to get the cat treats. Yeah, if you haven't planned for them to go there and they don't want to go there, then you're fine. It's even Steven. If you've planned on them going there and they don't want to go there, I mean, you get into the question of why are you planning on them going there, right? What I generally tend to do is I only plan for the next adventure. I only plan for the next adventure. I might have adventure hooks that go to different places, right? But I actually only plan out in detail the very next thing that the party is going to do. And that's after I ask them, hey guys, what's the next thing that you want to do? And they say, Luke, we want to go here and do this. Okay, cool, thank you. I then go prepare that thing. And because my players are all amazing people and they understand that I planned that out because they told me they were going there, they don't change their minds and they go to the place that they told me they were going to go. Because my players are they're mature, rational people who don't want to screw their dungeon master over because they understand the work that goes into dungeon mastering. Many of my players are dungeon masters themselves. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And so they understand that it's a lot of work and they don't want to screw me over. And I love them for that. So I only plan out the next thing they're going to do. Everything else is up in the air. Like I might have planned out a campaign that involves X thing. And if things, but I don't plan it out in a lot of detail. Listen, my high level campaign planning, when I'm planning a campaign at the very highest level, my campaign planning takes me maybe an hour to do. It doesn't take that long. It doesn't take that long. I've made videos about my campaign planning on my channel. It's called Campaign Creation Part 1 and Campaign Creation Part 2. And it's not super in-depth, my high-level planning. Now, my adventure level planning is very in-depth and very detailed because I want to run amazing adventures for my players. So if during the course of a campaign, they decide to completely, go off the rails, so to speak, and just disregard the rest of a campaign, and there was a big bad villain that was doing X thing, but they no longer care about that person, and they want to go do another thing that came up, usually because I introduced it, then I'm okay with that because I'll just put that aside. It's only about an hour of my planning, and then I'll redirect my efforts toward the new thing that they want to do. And I didn't lose any of my time or anything, and I'll plan out the new thing and I'll get excited about that and I'll be very happy to run that for them. So I don't plan things out in a lot of detail at the high level. I only plan out the next adventure in detail. And I usually get my players to tell me that that's the thing they want to do. So I have their commitment to do it, which means that I won't lose my effort in planning it out. Because when I plan out an adventure at the level of detail I plan it out, it might take me 4 to 8 hours. Sometimes more. It really depends on the adventure, how long it is, and how much I'm getting into it. Because sometimes I plan out more and more details, and sometimes I plan out fewer details, and I just improvise other things. It really just depends on the mood that I'm in. But it takes a good amount of time. So if I put in, let's say, 8 hours planning an adventure, and then they don't go there, well, then yeah, then I feel like, man, that doesn't make me feel quite as good. Which is why I only plan things out to that level of detail after they've told me they want to do it and they've basically committed to doing it. Because then I feel a lot safer spending that amount of time doing that, So I think I've answered your question in a way, but yeah, that's probably what I'm going to stick with for the answer to your question. Thank you. Lair magazine is going to stay 5th edition, right? Yes. Lair magazine, the current plans are that it will remain 5th edition. And honestly, we have like, what, an entire year still? I mean, 1D&D is not going to come out until 2024. So we have an entire year, at least, assuming there are no delays, because they haven't even started playtesting yet. Like, playtesting has not even begun. They're still doing market feedback. They're still doing market research. Like, all of these 1D&D... Okay, they're calling it playtesting. It's not playtesting. It's actually market research. They're seeing what people like and what they don't like, and that's informing some of their changes they're making. But it's not actually playtesting, guys. It's not playtesting. So they're still doing their market research. They haven't even started playtesting. You can only playtest once you have the entire system figured out. You have all the rules in place, and then you say, take this, play it, give us feedback. And then we'll adjust things. You can't playtest a rule system until you have the entirety of it together to actually see how everything works together. And then you got to do it for a decent amount of time. Like how long should the playtesting actually last? A year? because you have to have the entirety of the system done. In my opinion, you need to have the entirety of the system done, and then you have to turn a bunch of people loose on it, let them play it for a while, and then get feedback from them. Get feedback on the entire system, and then you have to incorporate that feedback, make changes, push everything out, push all of these changes out, so you have the system in its entirety with the changes made, and then people play test some more. And then you get feedback. Okay, now let's tweak some more things. And then you push out the entire system in its entirety with those changes made to people, and then they play test. The system in its entirety, right? And then that is an iterative process that goes on and on until the feedback you're getting is, hey, this really works. This works great. We love it. It's spectacular, and then you're saying, okay, cool. Playtesting is, we can wrap this up. We have, the system is working in its entirety. The feedback we're getting now is pretty good. And then you call it a day. And then at that point, you've playtested. At that point, you have a product, a new system that works well, is cohesive, and doesn't have a whole lot of problems in it, and then you can actually start publishing it. So how long should that playtesting last? If they're gonna publish this in 2024, that playtesting really should start now. But they're still doing market research. So I don't know how all that timing and stuff works. So my point is like, are they really going to have this come out in 2024? Yes, they will. And I'm going to tell you why, because 2024 is the 50th anniversary of D&D. Like that ship has sailed. They have to publish this in 2024. So if that means they have to skimp on playtesting, if that means they have to skimp on quality, they will skimp on quality in order to make sure they hit that date. Like, listen, in corporations, in almost any business, hitting dates is super important. You have to hit dates. Dates are super critical. Penguin Butt's here. Penguin Butt is one of the things that she does for us is project management, and she can testify that I'm very hardcore about hitting dates. Like, we have to hit dates. We need dates, right? And if we don't hit our dates, like, bad things, there's a ripple effect of bad things. So the same is true for Wizards and their date of 2024. It's their 50th anniversary. They must hit that date. There is a triangle. There is scope, there is timeline, and then there is quality. Okay, that is a triangle of a product triangle. Those are different things you can negotiate on when you are creating a product. You can negotiate on the scope, what's included in the product. You can negotiate on the timeline, when you're going to have that thing, and you can negotiate on the quality, how good is it going to be, or how crappy is it going to be. Now, any triangle, the legs of a triangle can adjust and stuff, but the total length of any of those legs is immutable. You cannot change it. So, for instance, one leg, the scope might be really big, right? And the timeline might be, what I'm trying to say is these points, these nodes, scope, timeline, and quality, you can only have two of them that are fixed. Two of them can be fixed. One has to be changeable. For instance, if I have a very big scope and I have a very short timeline, and those cannot be negotiated, like, I have to publish 3 core rule books. I must publish 3 core rule books, and they must be published by 2024. Those are not negotiable. I have to hit those. So what then will I negotiate on in my triangle of product development? Quality. I must hit my date. We must have 3 books. Quality will be the thing that gets negotiated on. Now, let's pretend they say, no, we're not going to do Spelljammer again. We're going to create actual quality. Okay, cool. So you're not negotiating on quality. Are you going to negotiate on 2024? No, you're not, right? So are you going to negotiate on the scope of the books? Maybe. Now, maybe you start trimming stuff out of these books. Maybe you don't publish as much in each book as possible and you reduce your scope. Maybe you do that, right? But there's certain expectations people are going to have about what these books should contain. And if you don't have them in there, they're going to get really upset. So that makes it really tough. And so now we're really back to negotiating on quality. And I think quality is the thing that's going to get negotiated. quality is the thing, you know, that they're going to have to negotiate on. Now you might say, well, you know, they can just throw more manpower at it. You can get more people on it. This is the mythical man hour, right? You can't throw an infinite amount, an unending amount of people at a project, and this is what most management is under the illusion that, you know, if you don't want to negotiate on any of your nodes for your product, you want to have the same scope, the same timeline, and the same quality, that you can just throw more people at it. Throw more people at it, throw more people at it. Just have more people work on it. Or have your people work overtime, have them work longer hours. No, we've found, you know, business and people have found in general that there are diminishing returns after a certain point. Once a person has worked too much, any more hours, you just get crazy diminishing returns. You have a dip in morale, quality of work suffers big time. You know, and it's not a good thing. And you can't just throw more people at a project, because there's a concept of communication overhead as well. The more people that are on a project, the more communication that you have, diminishing returns as well. You start to get into situations where you have like stand-ups every single day. You have meetings every single day of all the different project heads and all the different teams, because you're trying to coordinate so many people in so much time. There reaches a point too where you throw too many people at it, and then it actually impacts your development pace negatively, right? And so what am I getting at? They have, I guess all I'm trying to say is that they must hit 2024 because it's the 50th anniversary, right? There's a certain expectation of scope of what will be included that they can't negotiate on. So they're probably going to negotiate on quality, would be my presumption. My presumption is probably that's the thing that would have to take a hit if necessary, you know? And the fact that playtesting hasn't begun yet is probably concerning a little bit. Unless they've already developed one D&D, playtesting is occurring, and those people have all signed NDAs and they can't talk about it. And all of the marketing analysis they're doing, the marketing feedback, which they're calling playtesting, these are the one D&D stuff that they're releasing as PDFs. All of that, if all of that is a sham and playtesting is already happening, well then I'm wrong, because they're already doing the playtesting. They have one D&D already made, and all of the feedback is just a sham, and they don't intend to do anything based upon it, and it's just a big kind of like, you know, song and a dance for people to make it seem like, but that doesn't make sense to me. You know, that would just be illogical, you know, and crazy, and like, you know, the conspiracy theory of conspiracy theories. So I don't think that's happening. I think they literally just they haven't started playtesting yet, and I don't know when they're going to start playtesting, because you have to do the system in its entirety. And if they don't playtest the system in its entirety, wow, you're gonna have a crap show when it gets released, and then people actually start playing it, and you're like, wow, this is messed up. You're gonna have a repeat of 3.0 and 3.5, where, if I remember correctly, they released 3.0, and there was, if I remember correctly, based on my current understanding, take a grain of salt here, they released 3.0, and there were such significant problems with 3.0, they followed under a year later with 3.5 because there were such significant problems with it. I hope we don't have that. Like, that's egg in the face, man, when you have to do something crazy like that, right? So I don't know what they're doing over there. My hope is, you know, that we get a very solid 1D&D, right? Like, I don't want them to fail. You know, they do sleazy stuff, but, you know, you got to be in a really bad place to just want people to fail, you know? So, but I don't know. I don't see it. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at these things. I'm just like, I don't see it. Like, where is the playtesting? When's it going to happen? And you know what I mean? Because you gotta, like, at some point, like you have to start writing the content of these books. You have to write the content of the books. It has to go through the editorial process. You know, you have to get it sent to your printers. You know, they use really crappy printers, by the way. The quality of their books is just abysmally horrible. That's a rant for another day. But anyway, there's a whole production process of printing and stuff that has to happen too. You know, which takes a while. So there's a whole lot of work to be done, you know, to release one D&D. And there's not a lot of time to do it. And they haven't started playtesting. So it's like, man, in my gut, I just feel like we're going to see a sacrifice of quality. That's and based upon the lack of quality in some of their recent releases, like I think that's probably what we're gonna see, you know? historically, that's what we're seeing, is a decline in quality. And yeah, so I think that's probably what's going to happen. But I'm speculating. Obviously, I'm 100% speculating. And I'm not trying to like fearmonger and stuff. I'm just telling you from what I see. This is what I see. I need more coffee. I'm getting low here.
Once upon a time, there was a dungeon master named Timmy. He was too busy to properly prepare for his games, and his players all thought he sucked. But then Timmy's mommy got him Lair magazine for Christmas, reducing his prep time and improving the quality of his games. And then Timmy's players all loved him and thought he was the best dungeon master ever. Be like Timmy and become a DM Lair patron at the link below. Yeah!
All right. My dog is still trying to get those snacks. She's like, I can smell them. I can't reach them. Let's go to there. Oh, she goes off camera. She's trying to reach him. She can't get to him. Or people talking about whether it's going to be digital books or print books. Oh my gosh. I mean, I would not use it at all if I have to get the digital books, I think. I don't want digital books. I don't want digital products like for like my core rule books, you know? Like I like physical books. I like physical books. And lots of other people like physical books too. So I mean, PDFs are great. I use PDFs. I like PDFs. I appreciate it when a company offers PDFs. But I also like to have physical books too. You know, there's value in both of those things. But an online digital place where I have to have a subscription to it, and then they're hitting me with downloadable content fees, DLC fees for every little thing, I don't have a lot of interest in that. You know what I mean? So if they go that route, then it'll be interesting to see what people's reaction to it is. Now of course, if everything's digital, it makes it a lot easier for them to update things quickly. You know, when they release something that people on Twitter get all upset about, it'll make it really easy for them to change it like that. But once you put it in physical books, it's done, baby. It's done. And going totally digital and not printing books at all, that really reduces your overhead and your expenses big time. Big time. I don't know that they would do that, but they might. Who knows? I'm getting ready to run the final combat, Rise of Tiamat, for my party. Any advice for managing a battlefield with 3 distinct levels and elevation changes? Just keep track of it. Keep track of it. I don't know. That's the only advice I have. I mean, it's a good idea, and I would not do that. I would definitely do what you're suggesting because it makes the battle more interesting, different elevations and stuff. You're just gonna have to keep track of it. I mean, the only thing I could think of is have the elevations be at, you know, distinct, easy to keep track of differences. You know, like this elevation is at 0. The next one is 30 feet higher. The next one is 30 feet higher. And why 30 feet? Because most characters move 30 feet. And so if they're climbing up, it'll take them their move action plus their dash action to climb, because you climb at half speed, and then they get up in 1 turn. You know, so think of things in terms of turns and how much people usually move in a turn. And if you have the fly spell cast on you, your movement is 60 feet. And so that makes easier increments, 30 feet and then 30 feet. So I would probably design the levels in 30-foot increments, because that makes tracking positioning a lot easier to manage. Whereas if you have something that's like, if it's 25 feet between each level, well, then it's like I can You know, I can climb up. It gets messier when you have to do your math. So track the different levels in increments of 30 feet. I feel like is going to make your life a lot easier. I already answered that one. How would you handle interest from multiple people, like 10, who want to play, but you know only about 6 will be able to make any session week to week? Yeah, then this is what you do, Sadu. You literally say, hey guys, there are 10 of you that want to play. I can't run a game for that many. I'm really sorry. I can't run a game for that many. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna run one game for some of you, and these are gonna be the people who it's gonna be for. And I would be perfectly honest with them. I would just say, listen, the reason that I've chosen these 6 people to play in this game is because I know their schedules will allow them to be at the game every week. Straight up, that's why. It's not because I like them more. It's not because I like you less. It's not because of any other reason. It's literally because I know your schedules, and I know that 4 of you are crazy busy and would miss a lot of the games, and I know that 6 of you will be able to make the game sessions most of the time. That is why I have chosen these 6 people to play in the game that I'm going to run. So I'm really sorry for the 4 of you, but let's just be honest. I can't run a game for all of you, period, end of story. And let's be honest, the 4 of you aren't gonna be able to make half of the game sessions. And so it's not fair, you know, to like pick you as a player when you're not gonna be there. And then someone who could be there doesn't get picked because whatever, you know what I mean? So I would just be totally honest and forthright. I can only run one game. I got time for one game. I can't run a game with 6 people. It's not gonna happen. I've chosen these 6 people for those reasons. There you go. That's what it is. Now, will you have 4 people that are upset? Maybe. Put your big boy pants on. That's the life. That's life. That's life. You deal with it. And then you have people that are upset, you know? But you know what? If the people are mature enough, they understand. And they'll be like, yep, that makes sense. I understand. It's cool, man. We're cool. You know, I'll look for a game somewhere else or something. You know, if they're mature and understanding, well, then that says something. Oh, cool. You have a mature and understanding friend. I'm assuming they're friends. If they're not friends, then you have nothing to worry about. Just pick your 6 players, still explain to them, you know, explain why, you know, but just pick them and tell them why, and you got nothing to worry about. You don't even know them. They're strangers, you know. It's like you don't have to worry about a relationship. You still want to treat them kindly and fairly, obviously. They're still human beings, but you don't have to worry about a friendship or a relationship being damaged by the decision. But if they're friends, of course, the worry is that, well, our friendship, our relationship could be damaged. And then in that case, it's like, well, you know, you still have to make the proper decision. You still have to do what is right. You still have to maintain your integrity, but which is being honest and just explaining the way things are. And then you have to trust that, hey, if these friends are mature and if they're true friends, they're going to understand and we're going to be cool. And if they're immature and they're just going to get all upset and bitter about it and then reject me as a friend, it's like, well, that's life. You know, if that's how they're going to respond to something that's done in a reasonable, rational way, as impartially as I can, you know, if they can't understand that, well, then maybe they weren't deserving of the mantle of friendship. I don't know. You know, maybe that's something to think about too, if they're going to freak out because you had to make an adult decision. You know, because not everybody's mature. Not everybody can handle stuff like that, you know? So how they react to bad news, like how somebody reacts to bad news tells you a lot about them as a person. When somebody has delivered bad news, and they flip out and freak out and go, "Rah!" That tells you about that person. That tells you about that person. But people who delivered bad news and are just like, okay, that sucks. And then they move on and they're cool about it, and they just, even if they disagree with it, they move on. Well, that tells you about that person too. You can tell a lot about a person's character by how they react to bad news. And bad things and unfortunate circumstances they find themselves in. All right, I think I answered that question already. Wee. Oh, fantastic question right here. One of my moderators, Steven Eisman, one of my moderators, has flagged your question as a fantastic question, which means that I suppose I am now obligated to answer your question. I'm just playing around. I will answer your question. The question is, how do you get rid of a problem player who is a good friend? Well, you're screwed. I've talked about this before. You're screwed, buddy. You're screwed. You're screwed. You're screwed. You're screwed. Accept the fact that you're screwed. That's the first step. The first step is to accept the fact that you have found yourself between a rock and a hard place. No matter what you do, you're screwed. There is no good decision you can make. I find myself in this position sometimes running the business. Like, there's no decision I can make right now where there is not a downside. Like, I'm screwed one way or another. And this particular situation right here is one that you are screwed in either way. There is nothing you can do that has only upside. Whether you remove them from the group or whether you leave them in the group, there is a downside. There is a downside. So you're screwed. Now, really the question comes down to, like, which of the downsides do you prefer and which of the downsides do you not prefer? Like, so these are the downsides. You remove the player from the group, you lose a friend. Let's consider worst case scenario. They hate you, they resent you, you lose a friend, and maybe gain an enemy. That's a downside. That is a downside. Okay, let's pretend you leave that player in the group and they're a bad player. They're a problem player. What's the downside of leaving them in the group? The entire group suffers. Let's imagine worst case scenarios. We're envisioning worst case scenarios to help us in the decision-making process. What's the worst case scenario of leaving the problem player in the group? They're a really bad problem player. They're causing lots of issues. This player decides they don't want to play anymore and they leave. And they were a good player. This player decides, you know what? I'm not going to put up with that problem player anymore. I'm leaving. They leave. They were a good player. This person says, you know what? This guy's causing a problem. I'm going to leave. Well, you know, they were kind of an okay player. Maybe it's not a big deal. But now I have just a couple players left. Like, so worst case scenario, I leave the problem player and other players are leaving the game because of them. Good players are leaving the game because you left a bad player in the game. And so your gaming group is slowly dissolving and they're leaving and it's breaking up. Worst case scenario. Maybe that's the worst case scenario, but there's another really bad case scenario too, is that nobody leaves and none of you have fun. And you're just in this game every week or every 2 weeks where you're all kind of miserable and you're not having fun because of that one bad player who's, let's say, ruining the game for everybody else. As a dungeon master, it's frustrating to you. You're not having fun. The other players are frustrated and annoyed by this one problem player. And they're probably a little bit resentful that the dungeon master isn't doing anything about it. Consider that. There is, whether you like it or not, the dungeon master is a leader of the group in some aspects. And there are certain expectations that as the leader of the group, you're going to do something when there are issues. It is a mantle of leadership that the dungeon master carries. You may like it or not. You may revolt against it. You may say that it's not fair and that everybody should share that responsibility. And you're probably right to a certain extent, but it is what it is. Let's accept the way things generally are and analyze and presume and think about things according to that, as opposed to how things should be, because things in this world are not how they should be. I think we can all agree on that. So you might have players that resent you as the dungeon master for not doing something about the problem player. And then especially if the players know that the only reason this guy is a bad player and the only reason he's not kicking him out of this group is because he's a friend with him. This is favoritism. This is favoritism. He's allowing that player who's a bad player to stay here because of favoritism, because he's a friend of his. That doesn't make me very happy with that dungeon master either, because if I were doing the stuff that player is doing, I would get kicked out of this group. I guarantee you. But the only reason that player's not getting kicked out of this group is because they're friends, and they could resent you for that. So the downside of leaving the player in the group is all of that. And then the downside of removing your friend from the group is they hate you, they become your enemy, they don't like you. There's that. right? And so you have to look at these two downsides and you have to say, which one do I prefer? Which one am I gonna go with? Because you gotta pick one. Not making a decision is always making a decision. You can't just not make a decision because you are de facto making a decision when you don't make a decision. So yeah, you have to pick one. Which one do you prefer to deal with and which one would you not prefer? Now most people don't have the courage, I would say, to kick the friend out of the group. They just don't have the courage. They're just going to put up with it and they're going to hope things go okay. They're going to hope things improve. They're going to hope it all is well. I submit to you that the majority of people would not have the courage to kick the friend out of the group. They would not. And they would just let them stay and let things go on, right? I'm not telling you that I would have the courage. I'm not saying that I'm better than you. I'm just saying that the average person would probably not have the courage to ask their friend to leave the group. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that I would make a better, I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm just saying that I think the average person, that's a really hard thing to do. It's extraordinarily hard. It's a difficult conversation. It is a difficult conversation with someone who is not a friend, because I've had those conversations with people that aren't really my friends and I've asked them to leave groups. And it's a hard conversation when they're not my friend. I can't imagine how hard it would be if they're my best friend or a really good friend. That is a crazy hard conversation. And so to ask somebody to have that conversation that's already hard and then with a friend to ask them to leave is, wow, you gotta have some. You gotta have a whole wad of courage in you, to do that. And so I submit to you that the majority of people wouldn't be able to do that. They would let the friend stay. And then they would just deal with the consequences of their gaming group falling apart. But you need to make that choice. I can't tell you which choice is the better choice. Because it's possible that they stay in the group and, it's not that bad. And of course there's probably some bias and justification that goes on in your mind in saying it's not that bad. It could be worse, right? But how much better could the game be if you remove that bad player? Every single time I have removed a problem player from my group, the game has gotten exponentially better immediately. The next game session is like one of our best game sessions ever because the problem player is no longer there and we're all so excited to be able to play D&D without having to deal with all those issues. And it makes the game so much better. So I don't know what the right answer is for you. I don't know what you should do. I personally would hope that I could have enough courage to remove them from my group, because from an integrity standpoint, from a what is the correct moral ethical thing to do, I personally believe the right thing to do would be to talk with them and remove them from the group. I think from a moral ethical standpoint, that's the right thing to do. Personally, but I can't tell you what you should do and I can't tell you what the right thing to do. It's just my personal opinion, right? But I might not be able to do it. I don't know. I might not have it in me to remove my best friend from a game when they're a problem player. It's part of the reason that I enjoy playing with strangers who then become friends, because when I invite a stranger to a gaming group and things don't work out, I can remove them and it's not a big deal because the relationship isn't damaged. But when I invite a friend to a gaming group and then it doesn't work out, that's a lot tougher of a position to deal with, right? And so it's one of the reasons I really like the fact that almost all of my players start out as strangers and then many of them become friends, right? But they start as strangers. And that really is a big benefit of that in my personal opinion. But it's a tough situation and I've given you a lot to think about potentially. So there you go. Sorry. John the Vampire says, glad to be able to support you again. One of my friends wants to try D&D for the first time. He is new to tabletop RPG games, but he has played RPG before. Oh, he's played RPGs before, but not tabletop RPGs. Any advice? I have an experienced player on standby because I believe it will help him seeing him use the mechanics, but I can only form a party of 2. Yeah, so you do what you're thinking. The very best thing that you can do when you're bringing on a person who's never played a tabletop RPG before, such as D&D or Pathfinder, Call of Cthulhu, etc., is to have an experienced player. Having an experienced player there side by side with a new player, or like if you have like 2 new players and then there are 3 experienced players, or even if you have 4 new players and there's 1 experienced player, having that experienced player there is invaluable. In one of my games, the same thing happened. I was starting up a game at work and there were 3 people, I think. No, 2 people. 2 people that had never played before. And then there were 3 experienced players. And I'll tell you what, those 2 new people, they needed some help. And if the other experienced players were providing that help. They were stepping in, they were helping to teach the game. They were also doing things like, for instance, I would deliver what we all know as a plot hook. But these 2 new players have no idea what a plot hook is, and they're still climbing trees, literally. One of them was fascinated with climbing trees. She was climbing trees and jumping out of trees and all of this other thing. The other one was fascinated with the fact that she could get pets. And she had a snail pet at one point and some other pets. I don't know. So they were fascinated by different things of this free-form world where you could do anything. They were totally fascinated by that. And the plot hooks just went, woo, woo, just, I don't know what a plot hook is, right? And so they're off just doing whatever. Now, the other 3 players, though, who know what a plot hook is and kind of know how the structure of stuff works and the social contract and stuff are like, hey, guys, climb your tree, jump out of your tree, get your snail, okay? Let's get your snail pet. That's cool. But then, it was a slug, actually. It was called Doug the Slug. Get your slug, but then let's go try to rescue those 2 people, those 2 children that went missing. Let's go try to find them. Yeah, let's go try to find those 2 missing children. All right, come with us. All right. And that's just an example. But having an experienced player or 2 when you're teaching new folks how to play the game is super valuable. And so I would definitely recommend you get your friend on standby to join you. That will be very, very helpful. I 100% guarantee you. So that's a great idea, dude. Definitely do that. All right. I'm going to give you a short message from the Barbarian, and then we shall continue with the question.
Hello, Barbarian here. I'm interrupting your regularly scheduled program with a very important announcement. Now, some of you have been watching the DM Lair for years now, and others of you are new here. And if you're new, that's okay. And if you're really old and you have like gray hair or no hair at all, I mean, that's okay too. We do not participate in ageism around here. In fact, this is an ism-free zone. There are like absolutely no isms around here. In fact, if your name ends in ism, you should leave now. Wait, you know what? Just to play it safe, if you have any of the following letters in your name, you should leave. I, S, or M. Yeah. Anyway, the important announcement. Well, I'm really just going to ask you for money, but I'm going to dress it all up in fancy marketing clothes so that you'll never even realize that I'm manipulating your fragile emotions to make a quick buck. Trust me, this will be the world's best sleazy plug. Won't you please consider becoming a DM Lair patron at the link below? You see, my team and I work really hard to publish Lair magazine every month for our beautiful patrons. And when we don't have enough patrons, well, revenue dips. And when revenue dips, we have to do cutbacks. And well, that's really sad. You see, people always blame companies when they have to do cutbacks, but really it's your fault as the consumer for not buying all their crap. Or it's because they're trying to maximize shareholder value for stockholders. Or, the C-suite could just have their heads up their butts because, that happens a lot. Anyway, I'm not just asking you to throw your money into a hole. When you become a DM Lair patron, you're going to get cool stuff every month. 5th edition adventures, monsters, traps, puzzles, magic items, digital maps, and more. So if you don't want me to have to fire Penguin Butt and Goliath Cleric, become a DM Lair patron today at the link below. Oh no, I just realized that I have an I in my name. Barbarian has an I in it. I guess I'm gonna have to fire myself. Bye now.
All right, I'm back. I'm like reading your chats. Somebody was recommending Lost Mines of Phandelver. I was talking to somebody yesterday, I think, or the day before or something, and they were telling me that they began running the Lost Mines of Phandelver and then just threw it away and stopped and did something else because it was too confusing and complicated or something. They were having and this was an experienced game master. It wasn't somebody new. They were having a hard time with some of the stuff in it. And I've never read it, so I can't comment personally on it. So I don't know. I think I have to stop recommending that as a starter adventure for people, because if I have an experienced game master telling me that they had issues with it, I trust them more than I trust, like, you know, marketing from Wizards. Yeah, I don't know, Jaspers. I don't know. I mean, that's just the feedback that I received on it. I'm just telling you what I heard. All right. It looks like I've been skipping some stuff. Corey Davis, thank you for the $27 tip. I appreciate that, Corey. And also Hannah, $55 tip. Thank you so much. They say Merry Christmas, everyone, and Happy Holidays. Thank you, guys. That's all going to go to Canines for Warriors too. All tips go toward the charity that we have. We change our charities once we raise a certain amount. We've now raised over $500. We've hit our goal for Canines for Warriors, so we'll be doing a big donation to those guys just in time for Christmas, as it turns out. And then we'll pick a new charity. Once I have time to figure that out and make changes, we'll get a new charity up on the stream. In the meantime, we'll just keep sending everything to Canines for Warriors. They're the nation's #1 provider of service dogs to veterans. That's what Canines for Warriors does, by the way. So very deeply appreciative whenever a charity is helping our veterans. All right. And then I had a super chat that I missed too. Okay, Braden. Oh, let's find that. Let's find his super chat. Okay. Any recommendations on party interactions or missions with the myriad criminal organizations and are in good standing with them? Like ideas for missions or with criminal organizations? Well, I mean, so I'm going to just walk you through the process. I'm not going to give you, I might not give you specific ideas, because I don't like giving specific suggestions for ideas, because I'm not really helping you. I'm helping you overcome that particular moment that you need an idea, but I'm not teaching you how to like walk out for yourself and how to actually do it on your own in the future. And you're just gonna, if I don't teach you actually how to do it yourself, you're just gonna go somewhere else and come back to me and want another idea later. So it's important to be able to figure the process out of how do I come up with these ideas on my own, right? And the way, in this particular instance, you're just gonna role play the criminal organization. Role play the criminal organization. Think about what they are doing. What are they up to? What are the bad things that they're doing? You know, well, let's pretend that this criminal organization needs to launder money. They need to launder money. That's one of the needs that they have. They have a lot of illicit businesses that go on. Let's pretend that it's drug dealing, and they have to launder money. Okay, cool. We got to launder money. Well, in order to launder money, we need to have a legitimate business that we can inject those funds into and then get it, you know, scrambled in with their books and their business operations and their cash flow in and out. And then that money comes back out and it's clean. That's in a nutshell, money laundering 101. You want to inject dirty money from illegal practices into the system, and then you want to have it come out having been scrambled and mixed with the books as clean money. It's been laundered, it's been cleaned. And so the criminal organization needs to launder their money. Okay, how are they going to go about doing that? Well, they need legitimate businesses. Okay, cool. So we can just approach a legitimate business and try to get them to launder our money. Great. But if they agree, then that's not a problem. Because really, what you're doing as a game master when you're making adventures for your players is that you are creating a problem in the game world that your adventuring party can help fix. So in this particular instance, what could the problem be? Well, let's pretend that this legitimate business, let's pretend that they're a print shop. They create flyers and pamphlets and stuff. Let's pretend that the business owner does not want to cooperate with you. They don't want to launder money. Okay, cool. Now the criminal organization wants to fix that. They want that business owner to launder money. And so they might go to the adventuring party and say, hey, we want you to go intimidate that business owner into laundering money for us. That's pretty simple. That might not be the best adventure idea. So let's do this instead. Let's say that the criminal organization, instead of just doing direct intimidation, they want to blackmail that business owner. They want to get dirt on that business owner, something bad that can be used against them to coerce and blackmail them into cooperating with them and laundering money. So then now let's just call them the criminal organization now goes to the adventuring party and says, hey, we need you to get dirt on that business. We need you to go find something bad that they're doing. And then we can use that to coerce them into into laundering money for us. And there's your adventure idea. Now the adventure idea is the party needs to get dirt on this business. Now, how can they do that? Well, we don't know. That's where you can start thinking of different ways, different possibilities. Players might think of different things that they might do too, right? And that could be your adventure. That could be one of the adventures that they go on. And so you see the process, now I did give you a particular example, but only because I wanted to walk you through the mental process of how you should, or let's say how you can go about coming up with an idea. There are probably different ways you can go about doing it. This is just one of them that you just walk through mentally in your head as you're role playing and you're asking yourself questions until you get to a point where you're like, aha, I have an adventure idea. There you go. So that's one thing you can do. Shadow Theory, what's going on, dude? They say that it's been ages since I caught one of these. Hope you, Luke, and everyone else in the chat are having a good day. Thanks, dude. I'm glad you could be with us. I'm having a good day so far. Yeah, today's a good day. Okay. Kickstarter question. When's the next Kickstarter starting after the current one's delivered? Yes, kind of. So the current Kickstarter Layers and Legends is well on track to deliver in April of next year. I don't anticipate almost all of our potential problem areas historically we're past those. The printer has everything, and I have like one wetproof and digital print to like review, and then we're good to start printing. And so they're going to be able to do their print run on time, let's say. And so the Layers and Legends should definitely deliver physical fulfillment to everybody is going to happen in April. I'm pretty confident saying we're definitely going to hit that. There's always the potential of unforeseen stuff, but we've gotten past most of the big stuff that tends to delay a project, in my experience. Now, there's always something that comes up that you never experienced and you didn't foresee, but in my experience, I think we're sitting in a pretty good spot. So when is the next Kickstarter going to happen? So the next Kickstarter is going to be, essentially, we're going to be doing a Game Master advice book. It's going to have a lot of the information and stuff that I have learned over the years as a Game Master, things that some of my team members, many of them are experienced Dungeon Masters, Game Masters as well. A lot of the stuff that we've all collectively learned over the years, we're putting them into one book that you can read. And I would say close to half of the book is already written, and we are on track to have the entire book literally written by February or the end of February. Goliath Cleric is our director of product development, so he knows the exact date, but we're going to have the entire content of the book already done and ready to go before the Kickstarter ever launches. So the next Kickstarter for this, we're calling the working title is Game Master Advice Book, but we actually have a real title that I wrote down somewhere that I just don't remember offhand. But our working title has always just been Game Master Advice Book. That is going to come out a few months after the first Kickstarter fulfills. So that if the first Kickstarter fulfills in April, then probably January, February, March, April, May, June, July. So probably the next Kickstarter will launch in July of this coming year of 2023. And now, like I said, because we're going to have the book already written, interior layout will be done, everything will be done. That Kickstarter is going to launch in July. As soon as it ends, we're pretty much going to go right to printing. We're going to have everything lined up to print those books and get them fulfilled before Christmas of next year. And that is actually the new model that we are transitioning to as a business, is creating the product that we're going to do Kickstarters for in advance so that we can fulfill very quickly to you. Because, for instance, my last 2 Kickstarters, Into the Fae and Layers and Legends, it took like a year to get your books, right? Like you backed the Kickstarter, you paid the money, and then it takes a year to actually get your books, right? Now in the Kickstarter world, that's kind of normal, but I would rather you pay your money and you get your book as quickly as possible. And so we're transitioning to that business model where we can get you your product a whole lot faster, you know? So that's kind of like the timelines of what we're looking at upcoming with the next Kickstarter and stuff like that. So I think that makes sense. Do you think they could put some of their money into improving the digital dice? What do you mean? On D&D Beyond? Gosh, I hope not. Of all of the things that I could think of Wizards devoting a budget to improving, digital dice is not one of them. Like if you look at the crap show that was Spelljammer and how bad of a product that is, you know, then like I can't imagine you would put more money into digital dice when you could actually make your products better, like your actual real products better. Are you worried that this will cause a schism and create a new Pathfinder-like company? Oh, with the whole open game license thing and all the changes they're going to make to the new version? Worried is an interesting word. I wouldn't say that I'm worried. I mean, a schism doesn't worry me. Like if you have another thing, like when in 4th edition, when they did not release an OGL, and that literally led to the rise of Pathfinder, of Paizo, literally was the catalyst for that. Like that doesn't worry me. Like that would never worry me. It would never worry me as a consumer of their products. It wouldn't worry me as an independent publisher. Like if there's a schism, another schism, that only benefits me. Like if another schism is created and Wizards moves on to 1 D&D, but a massive amount of a massive amount of the player base decides to stick with 5th edition and ignore 1 D&D, that only benefits me. As a publisher of 5th edition content, it only benefits me if there's a schism and people don't want to play 1 D&D, because that means that there's going to be a vacuum of product. Wizards will no longer create 5th edition content, they're creating 1 D&D content. But if a lot of people are still playing 5th edition, there's a vacuum, there's a need for product there. Guess who fulfills that need? Independent publishers like me, like Paizo, like Kobold Press, like you name them. They're the ones that fill that vacuum, right? They create those products and those customers buy those products, right? And then those companies benefit from it. So that never worries me. I only stand to benefit from that, honestly, right? So no worry at all. If you were just talking from a business standpoint, you could argue that you want that to happen because it would probably mean good things for your business, right? I'm not worried about that. From a consumer, I'm not worried about it. It doesn't matter to me. I'll buy what I want to buy. If they produce a product that I like, I'll buy it. If they don't, I won't. So there's nothing about that that's worrisome. I have a player who has a case of main character syndrome. Any advice to make the other storylines more interesting for them or help them be engaged when they are not the focus? No! Don't feed the habit. Holy crap. You have a player who wants to always be in the spotlight and they're always trying to hog the spotlight. Don't give them more spotlight. They need to learn to calm down and give other people the chance to shine as well, and other people a chance to play the game. You have a monster out in your backyard that wants to eat your vegetable garden. Don't plant a bigger vegetable garden. Beat the crap out of that monster and show him his place. Don't hurt your players. That analogy probably came out wrong. All right, but don't feed the monster. Deal with the monster. No, you don't. If somebody has main character syndrome and always wants the spotlight, no, they need to deal with the fact this is a group game. It is not a computer game where they're always the one that's there doing the thing. It's a group game at the table. People take turns. That's the way this works. Maybe that's not the game for you. Maybe you need a computer game or a game where it's just you and you can be the spotlight. But I'm not converting my game around your needs, because everybody at this table has needs and desires and wants, and we all want to enjoy the game. The game is not about you. It's about all of us collectively having fun as a group. And so I'm not going to change. I am not going to change things just to appeal to one person because they want to be in the spotlight all the time and they have main character syndrome. I'm not going to change my game for them. I'm going to make my game generally appealing to most of my players at all times. As much as I can, I'm going to make segments of the game that appeal to everyone, you know, and there are going to be some parts of the game that are intentionally designed to appeal to this character, and others that are for this character, and others that are for this character. Now, they still should be designed so that they're generally appealing, and I'm not running a game for one person while everybody does nothing, but I'm considering the totality of my players, the totality of my gaming experience for everybody. And I'm not going to cater the game to one person's particular needs and wants. I'm not going to cater the entire game to them. Some parts of the game, yes, because that's good. But the entire game to their needs and wants because they're greedy? No. That's bad, and that's just reinforcing the problem, in my opinion. Okay, so I answered a question from somebody a while back, and then there was a part of the question that I didn't understand, and now they clarified it for me. They said that their party wasn't listening to them, and the clarification is my party is just not listening when I describe what's happening. I need to explain several times. What do I do? Okay, so I can't tell you what you should do. I'm gonna tell you what I would do. And I'm at this point, I'm probably going to be fairly frustrated and upset. And so I'm going to time my game out. Guys, time out. Let me explain what's going on here. This is what's happening from my point of view. I'm talking with my players, right? I explain things once and you don't listen because you ask about it and I have to explain it a second time, and then a third time, and a fourth. I find myself having to re-explain the same thing over and over and over and over again. And you're not listening to what I'm saying. I don't know if it's because you're on this or what you're doing, but you're not listening to me and I have to re-explain myself multiple times. Guys, this is extremely frustrating to me. What's going on? Like, am I doing something wrong? Like, is the game dead boring and so you just not paying attention? You know, like, do we need to have a no phones rule or something? Like, what? I need to know what's going on here, guys, because like I can't keep doing this. I'm reaching the end of my patience and I might be doing something wrong. I'm not blaming you necessarily. I'm simply telling you this is what I'm observing. I'm explaining things and you're not paying attention. I need to know what is going on, what the root cause of this is, so that we can make this better. Because this situation where people aren't paying attention when the Dungeon Master talks doesn't work. It's not working and it's causing me to be frustrated. Now, I might be doing something wrong that I can improve at, and I'm happy to talk about that. But I also want to consider that, you know, ultimately, like, I need you guys to pay attention. And if there's a reason you're not paying attention, like, we could talk about that and maybe we can make that better. But we need to figure this out, basically. We need to figure this out because I can't keep doing this. So I would probably just have an honest conversation with my players, but try as much as possible not to point fingers and not to blame, because you don't know what's actually causing them not to pay attention. right? Consider the all dungeon masters, whenever you have a problem in the game, whenever there is a problem or there is a problem player, you should consider the possibility that you're part of the problem, dungeon master. Always consider the possibility that you're part of the problem. Now, it might not be true, but you should be open to the possibility. Your players don't pay attention. Well, maybe your game sucks, right? Your player's always on his phone. Well, maybe your game's not fun and interesting for them. Maybe your game is all about combat and your player hates combat, right? You can't just assume that it's the player's fault. You can't, and you shouldn't. Because the dungeon master is part of the equation. You must be open to the possibility that you as a dungeon master can improve, and that there are probably things that you're not doing that great and that you could get better at. So any conversation about anything at the game that deals around a problem that's happening should be faced and approached from the idea that you can improve as a dungeon master, that you are not flawless. So always consider that possibility when you're addressing any problem at the game table. That is my suggestion for you. Do you playtest DM Lair issues? Is the content something someone used in their games and it worked, or do you think of a concept and make rules out of it? Okay, so there are certain things we playtest, and there are other things that playtesting doesn't really need to be playtested. So let me explain. Most of the time, any type of character options must be playtested. You must playtest character options, because character options are a long lasting thing. Like, for instance, we did publish at one point 3 or 4 different character options, and Ed Robinson on our team, who's our lead developer, those were characters options that he had created himself for his own personal games, and he had been using them for quite some time with his players, and they had tested them pretty thoroughly so that he could come up with a refined version of them. So those got play tested. We released, we're going to be releasing some mass combat rules, like mass combats and sieges. Very, very lightweight, not a big book, very lightweight rules that you can actually use at your game table that are easy to use. And those we playtested. My team and I got together and playtested those rules and gave feedback, and we iterated on it, and we came up with, okay, we fixed some stuff and now we have something that works pretty well. So yeah, we playtested those. But there are other things that don't really need playtesting. You're making new monsters. You can balance new monsters according to the rules pretty well. You don't have to playtest them. They just, you follow the rules and it works. That's just the way it works. Dungeons, adventures, there are specific rules that go around how these things are designed, and your mileage may vary. If one person who runs an adventure is going to have a certain experience, you could have 10 people who play an adventure and they all have different experiences based upon their players' decisions, based upon the characters that run those dungeons and stuff. Like, your experience is going to be totally different. So what I'm getting at is there are certain things in the game that must be playtested. There are other things in the game that, the playtesting is more optional and is not necessary to have, because, if you have 10 people that playtest an adventure, they all have different experiences. Like, half of them are like, that was great. Other half are like, well, my players got their butts kicked, but they were also running really poor characters and stuff. It's like, well, what are you going to do with that? Like, you spend a whole lot of time and effort playtesting it only to be like, meh, no changes. But there are other things that you must playtest. So it's a case by case for us. The things that we decide, this is something that needs to be playtested, this is something that won't get playtested. And then you have to consider too, what are the things that dungeon masters just take out of the box and use, and what are the things that dungeon masters almost always make updates to. So now, there are dungeon masters that will take an adventure out of something that we publish and use it as is, but a lot of dungeon masters change stuff anyway. So if they're going to change stuff anyway to make them unique and customized for their own group, then you can make the argument, well, what added value does taking a whole lot of time and spending money and effort to playtest it actually add if they're going to change it anyway, right? So it's a question of, like, where are you going to focus your effort and your money in doing stuff. So some stuff, yes, 100%. Other stuff, it's like, there's not a whole lot of value in playtesting this sort of thing. you know. And so that's a question you have to ask, you know. And especially when you are a small independent publisher, you have to be very, very conscientious of where you're spending your team's effort and time, right? And what you're spending money on. You have to be very, very conscientious of that. So if we were a big, huge, massive company that made $1 billion in a year, then we can playtest. We should be able to playtest pretty much everything sufficiently because we have the budget for it, right? When you're a very small independent publisher, you have to be very judicious about what you decide to playtest and what you don't decide to playtest. Now, if my team and I were constantly creating new character options or new rule sets that dramatically influenced the game in big ways, then yeah, we'd have to playtest those things, and that would change our process significantly. We would need way more lead time, and it'd probably cost a lot more money. So then, you know, there are lots of independent publishers that create character options. Do they playtest them? I don't know. They might. They should. But there are other things that probably need less of it. So that's the honest answer to that question. How do you find new players? I literally have a video coming out in January. I think it's like the first week of January that is going to be a deep dive into finding how to find players. I'm going to go over pretty much every mechanism that I know on how to find players. I'm going to give you the too long didn't read version like right now. 1, join my Discord. We have a looking for group channel where you can find groups. You can find players for your groups. People are forming groups there. So step number 1 is join the Discord because we have a LFG channel. There are also lots of other Discords you could join as well. Just bear in mind that the community in the Discords vary, right? Some Discords and some communities are nice, helpful people. Others are going to be backbiting and nasty little buttheads. So just, think about the community that you're joining and where you're going to like recruit players from or try to find a game. So that's something to consider. Next, you can go to Reddit. Reddit has an LFG. It's a subreddit. It's /LFG. And I have found players there before. I've in-person players I have found through Reddit's LFG. I have a really good track record of it. And in general, much of Reddit is a very nasty place, and people tend to be very mean to each other. But I think that is probably because of the culture of Reddit. When you take people out of that culture and they're actually at your game table playing games, they, in my experience, have turned out to be really nice people. And so I think it's a cultural problem with Reddit. But the people, when you take them out of that environment, they tend to act like normal human beings instead of people that are backbiting and being very nasty to each other, which has been my experience on Reddit. So Reddit, good experience with Reddit. Hanging up posters at your local game shop also has been very successful for me as well. I think those are the top methods I recommend. There are other ways you can go about doing it, and I go into detail in my video, so I'm gonna leave it there. But those are the top methods that I personally have had the most success with. I need more stuff.
Hi there, you probably already know what I'm going to say, but if you don't, that's okay. I literally get paid to do this stuff, so I don't mind repeating myself. Anyway, if you're a busy person and you would like to spend less time prepping for your D&D games, you should really become a DM Lair patron and get a new issue of Lair magazine every month. It contains 5th edition and resources designed by our team of mad scientists to brainwash your players into thinking you're the very best dungeon master in the entire world. So just go on ahead and click that big shiny link below and become a DM Lair patron today. Don't worry, your players will never even know that you're cheating.
All right. Had to get some more tea. All right, Obed, thank you for the $10 super chat. I appreciate that, dude. How do I rein in my experienced player from moving the party too fast and speaking for the party? I think what I would do in that particular situation is talk to that player by themselves, and let's say it's Jim Bob. Like, Jim Bob, hey dude, I need your help. So you're super experienced. The rest of the party isn't. And so, like, I need you to help me with the pacing, because you got some really good ideas and you know what you want to do, you know, and you're like, okay, boom, 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 analysis, let's do this thing, right? Well, the thing is the other players aren't moving quite as quickly, and like they need a little bit more time to parse things through and be able to think things and discuss things, you know, and they need to be able to also take part in that decision-making process. So I want you to help me with that pacing, because I've observed that you seem to make a decision and then speak for the party and try to get things moving along, which has its place, but I really want to give these new players an opportunity to learn how to do that themselves. And in order for them to learn how to do that themselves, they're going to have to take part in that decision-making process. They're going to have to be able to discuss things and think things over to be able to lead them to a certain decision and what to do and stuff like that. You know, whether it's talking to an NPC, whether it's making a decision on the next thing to do, whether it's like deciding how to overcome a particular challenge the group is confronted with, like I want them to also be able to partake in that process as well. And so I need you to help me give them some space, you know, and allow them to participate in that as well, you know, so that we need to slow the pacing down a little bit so that they can actually do that. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to, you know, correct what they're doing in such a way, if you can parse it as getting their help with something as opposed to like slapping them on the wrist for doing something that's bad, it's probably going to be better received. At the end of the day, it's the same thing, you know, but it's going to be better received if you can try to get them to help you with the other players, you know, because, you know, acknowledging the fact that, hey, you're really experienced and you're doing really cool stuff, you know, but if you can help me with this, you know, I just think there's a different way of approaching it than just kind of like smacking them on the wrist, you know. It's the honey on a stick versus like, you know, beating them over the head with a stick approach, you know. So that might be a specific thing you could try to approach with them, you know, in that particular case. I'm thinking to switch to in-person D&D. Oh, that would be very, very good. John, let me tell you, in-person D&D is like levels of magnitude more fun than online D&D. So I wouldn't think too much about doing it. I would just do it and then experience for yourself how awesome it is. You can always go back to online if you don't like it or something. Any ideas on how to use maps? Just get a dry erase map. I have there's some on Amazon. I have like a list of different products on Amazon that I recommend. Maybe one of my moderators can throw something in there that goes to that store, my Amazon storefront or whatever. But basically, you can get a dry erase map, you know, and you just literally, you draw your own map of your adventure on grid paper, a little piece of grid paper. And then during the game, you literally just have dry erase markers. You could use wet erase markers as well as if you'd like. And you just draw the map out as they go, you know, or you only, it actually, a lot of times when I'm playing in person, I prefer to do things theater of the mind unless combat breaks out, because things move a lot faster when you don't have to draw the map everywhere they go. So usually everything is theater of mind where I'm not literally drawing a map. The only time I draw a map is when a combat begins. And then when a combat begins, well, then we just pause the game a little bit and I start drawing the map, and I'll draw the map out of the area that the combat's taking place in on the dry erase map with my dry erase marker. And then the players wait for me to do that, and you know, it's not that bad. Like, some people be like, well, that's boring, they have to sit there and wait for you to do it. No, it's not that bad. Like, as a player, when I'm watching my dungeon master draw the map out, I'm looking at that map as he's drawing it, and I'm like, okay, ooh, what's that? Oh, okay. That, we have an elevated terrain right there. How can we make use of that? Okay, oh, we got a bunch of stuff over here. I'm like watching the map being drawn out, I'm planning what I'm gonna do in this combat as I'm seeing things unfold as he's drawing it. it's not boring. It's actually part of like the tactical like analysis of what I'm gonna do. And then he places the miniatures, and then it's like, okay, cool. This is what we got going on. What are we gonna do? And so it's not a bad experience to sit there and wait for them to draw it out. In my opinion, I think it's cool, and you get engaged and you think about it, and then you're also talking with your players, getting ready for things, and it's like, okay, what are we gonna do? And you're planning as well. So that period of time that the dungeon master is drawing that map out is a time that the players can converse and plan about what they're gonna do to take out these bad guys. So that's how I handle maps, and I think it works perfectly well. I don't have materials or time to make them. No. Should I stick with Roll20, everyone having their devices with them? No. You just need dry erase maps and markers, dude, and then you just have graph paper. Now, what you could do if you want is you could still buy maps online, digital maps, and use them for your adventures, and then at the table, all you do is just draw it out really quick for them. Listen, a dry erase map, the ones that I use cost, I think, about $10. Dry erase markers are probably about $5. So you have $15 of investment that are going to last you like a long time, and that's all it's going to cost you. And then you don't even have to buy digital maps. You can just Google maps, get some ideas for maps, and then draw them out on grid paper if you want to, or you can just pay people to make them and then just draw them out on your big thing. If you wanted to, you can probably get these digital maps printed at a print shop or something like, Kinko's or FedEx or some print shop if you wanted to at scale. Probably a little more complicated, and you'd have to pay for that and then drive there and pick it up and junk. But there are different options for you. But being able to play in person and the exponential increase in fun of playing in person is worth it. I would definitely try it out for a while, and get into the swing and figure some of those. There's going to be some speed bumps, and there's going to be some things you got to learn how to do, but once you sort those things out, I think you're going to find that playing in person is so much better. How do you make and plan out social encounters? Oh, by the way, we have a giveaway going on, folks. We are going to draw the winner to our giveaway in a little bit. There's a little bit of time yet. But if you haven't joined the giveaway, please feel free to do so if you want. We're giving away either a hard copy of Into the Fae, which was our first Kickstarter, or we're giving away DM Lair store credit. So if you want to get some free stuff, join the giveaway, link in the chat. Thank you, Penguin Butt. What was the question? How do you make and plan out social encounters? Well, a lot of social encounters are unplanned. They're just, monsters potentially in the dungeon that are there, and it's just an encounter. And a monster in a dungeon can be a social encounter, and it might be a combat encounter, and it might be both. It might start out as a social encounter and then turn into a combat encounter. And so you plan those out. Like, how do I do it? I just do it, like I put a monster in there. I think about what their motivations and goals are, and then I role play them at the game. When we're actually playing the game, I role play them. Why is the rust monster in that room? What is his goal and motivation? Well, he wants food. Cool. And then I just role play at the game table. There's not a ton of planning that has to take place. Now, you can get deeper. You can make even more in-depth role-playing things and stuff, but the basic is just decide what your creature's motivations and goals are. If you know what their motivations and goals are, that's usually what you need to be able to role-play them properly in a social encounter. Now you could get more in-depth, right? You might have a specific NPC that they're going to meet, and that NPC, let's pretend that the NPC has very good information that could help that party to overcome something else that they're working on. Well, then you want to plan that out. Okay, what's the information that they have? Right? And what are the different things they know? Have those listed out or have a good idea of what those are. Okay, cool. Now the party is going to want to get that information. Great. Okay, what are some of the different things they could try to do to get that information? Well, they could intimidate, they could bribe, they could persuade, they could deceive, they could try to steal. They might resort to combat or something. And then how am I going to deal with those different things? You know, what's the difficulty class? What's the DC they have to get on those different roles? You know, and I could really think about those things and really plan that out in detail. Or I could just stay high level and just be like, well, you know, this NPC has this information and the players know they need to get it. Let's see what they do. And then at the game table, when they approach that social encounter and they try to intimidate, okay, cool. They're going to try to intimidate. Excellent. Give me an intimidation check. And then in my mind, what should the DC be? Well, you know, this person's not very strong and they don't have a lot of leverage or friends and stuff. So they're probably going to be pretty easily intimidated. So I think the DC is going to be 13. And then they roll like a 12. Well, you know, it didn't work. Okay, well, cool. We're going to do something else. You basically, what you're doing is you're adjudicating on the fly. You're role playing on the fly. You're running the game on the fly in response to that. So you have two ways of doing it. You could plan out in depth a social encounter, or you can just kind of do a more lightweight version. And usually a dungeon master is going to do this based upon their level of experience. A new dungeon master might want to plan out more in depth so they know what to do at the game table and they're not kind of like, you know, whereas an experienced dungeon master is just like, oh, I've done this 1,000 times. I don't need to plan out a whole lot. I'll just see what the party decides to do and then I'll just figure it out at the game table, you know. But then they're relying upon their experience. So your mileage varies on how you want to do that, you know. But at the very minimum for a social encounter, you need to know what the NPC's motivations and goals are, and you need to know what the objective is. What's the objective? What is the dramatic question, we can say. For instance, the dramatic question or the objective for the NPC that has information is the players want to get that information, right? In the case of our rust monster, the dramatic question is, how do we get by this rust monster, right? This rust monster is blocking our way forward. How do we get by them, right? It's not, you don't have to kill it, right? You could just throw it some metal and let it eat and then walk by, right? You might have somebody who can cast Dominate Monster and they cause that rust monster to tag along with you for a little bit and then maybe help you in the next combat. Like, the dramatic question is, this rust monster is in the way, how do we get by it? Now that might be killing it, and it might be a whole other different number of things. So you want to know what the objective is and what the dramatic question is, right? Why is that social encounter there? What is that thing in the game? What is it doing in the game? Why? And then you want to have the motivations and goals of the NPC that's part of that social encounter. And if you have that at a minimum, the rest of the stuff you can just kind of adjudicate and make up on the fly as you go, if you're comfortable doing that. If not, well, then you just plan a bit more. You put more information into it. So I think those are kind of the nuts and bolts, perhaps, of a social encounter. What was the absolute worst voice you've come up with at the table while role-playing? I don't know the worst voice I've come up with. One of my most memorable voices that I can't do again. I don't know why, but it struck me as an inspiration. This was at my Hand of Light group, and one of my players, Anna, went to a market and she wanted to buy something from a merchant, or she was negotiating with a merchant or something. And for whatever reason, I almost never plan my voices in advance. I almost always just make up a voice on the fly. And for whatever reason, I had the perfect Indian like voice, you know, the country India. I had like the perfect voice came out of just like talking with that type of accent. And that was the most amazing voice I've probably ever had. And that was an amazing little social encounter. And it was tons of fun. And this like Indian merchant was like haggling back and forth and negotiating and stuff. And it was just, wow, that was just amazing. But I can't do it. I don't remember how I did it. And I've tried to replicate that voice since then. And because I remember how cool it was and I can't do it, I fail. You know, so but it was really cool. That was a really cool voice. So anyway, I don't think I answered the opposite of your question. I'm sorry. Would you consider the Wizards of the Coast virtual tabletop if it feels like a real table? It won't, because it's going to feel like a video game, I think. And the answer is no, because you can't capture the palpable excitement and feel of an actual game table online. You can't do it. It doesn't matter what you do digitally online, you can't capture what it's like to be in the same room with players and have that excitement and that banter. You just can't capture that online. You can't. It's impossible. Like maybe when we have like crazy technology, but we're not there yet. Curly Locks, thank you for the $5 super chat. I appreciate that. Any tips on having a campaign unfold over an extended period of time? For instance, a campaign taking place over the course of a few years instead of a few weeks. Okay, so most campaigns take a few years to unfold in our time, in real time. So I think what you're asking is if you want the campaign to unfold over years in game time, like actual game time. And you're driving at a really good point in that a lot of times if you're tracking game time, most campaigns happen in a few weeks because the players are just, you go to an adventure, it takes a day. You short rest. You long rest. The next day, you go on the next adventure. And so let's pretend that you gain a level after every adventure, which a lot of people run their games that way. Then after 20 adventures, you've gained level 20. And that probably is going to take place in 20 days in game. So literally your campaign lasts about a month and they've gone from levels 1 to level 20. It's like rocket ship. So the question is, if you want your campaign to take place over a longer period, like years, how do you make that happen? There's really only one way to do that. The Dungeon Master has to mechanically enforce that. You must do it some way, somehow. You must put a brake on the speed progress and force breaks. Force breaks. The way that I do this is I tell my players, when you gain a level, you must take a week of downtime to get your level. That's the only way to gain your level. You don't just take a sleep overnight and then have your next level. You must take a week of downtime. And that also allows them to pursue downtime activities as well. But what it also does is every time they gain a level, it makes a week go by, which allows me as the game master, if I want to have things happening behind the scene, I have time to make those things happen behind the scene, right? So it gives me a tool to work with by having my players take a downtime to level up, but it also allows my players to pursue downtime activities, because something that I've noticed in my games is that if I do not force them to take downtime, my players never take downtime, because there's always a compelling reason to go to the next adventure. There's always a ticking clock, and they will push themselves to go to the next adventure right away. Even if they'd like to take downtime, they feel that they can't, and they must go right away. And so I literally impose a rule that forces them to take downtime to allow them the opportunity to pursue other activities and allows me the opportunity to progress my calendar, because bad guys are doing stuff behind the scenes. And so that's the answer. You must artificially, it doesn't have to be the way that I do it, but it must be a way that you artificially progress things. You might say, hey guys, you got done with your adventure, great, you gained a level. Not a whole lot's happening over the next 3 months. Things are pretty calm. You guys are just pursuing side activities or something. But then you are approached by, and then you launch into it. There we go. I just skipped 3 months in game time, and the next adventure happens. And there it is. So you can just narratively take over and do that. Now, will your players take umbrage to that and be like, well, I want to do a whole bunch. I had 3 months. I could have done a whole bunch of stuff. And be like, listen, guys, this is just part of the game. All right. Part of our game is going to be that time is going to pass in between your adventures. If we literally play out downtime for 3 months, we're going to be here for a long time. So we just need to have a mechanic that time can pass in the game without having to roleplay at all and to figure out what you were all doing during that time. Because we're going to spend our entire game session, just for the next 3 weeks or, 3 whatever months, just doing downtime activities. So I as a dungeon master, I want time to pass in game. And so this is just the thing. We're going to skip ahead every so often. Every so often, we're going to skip ahead a few months and we're just going to say time has passed. And that's just that is the way that I am running this game. Okay. That's a decision you can make as a game master to run your game that way. You just inject time passing, and that's just the way you run your game. You're not affecting, you know, it's a decision you can make if you want to, you know. Oh, baby. Opinion on how much homebrew is too much. When you have to start publishing rule sets to your players. I don't know. The thing is, the different people have different desires for homebrew and different tolerances for homebrew. So how much homebrew is too much for me is not the amount of homebrew that's too much for you, you know? So this is just a personal opinion thing. Like, I don't homebrew a whole bunch. Okay, we gotta talk about what homebrew is. So if you're talking about homebrew adventures, I almost exclusively homebrew my adventures. All of my adventures I create, unless I'm specifically running a module, which obviously then a lot of that's just from the module. But if I'm most of my games, I homebrew everything because I enjoy it. It's fun to me, right? I also like running modules, you know, so I'll do that too. But homebrew adventures, you can homebrew your adventures as much as you want. Homebrew your monsters as much as you want. Your traps, your puzzles, you know, homebrew to your heart's extent. There's no limit on those sorts of things. Now, there are other things where homebrew is a little bit different. Like if you're changing the actual game mechanics, you're changing the rules, you're changing how classes work, you're changing how combat works. That type of homebrew, right? That isn't just homebrewing the dungeon master stuff, my adventures and my monsters. Now I'm starting to homebrew stuff that impacts the players very directly, in so much that their characters play by those rules in combat. Their characters use those classes, their characters use those spells, and now my homebrew is really affecting those things, right? And that's a different sort of homebrew. I draw a distinction between those two things, and so you have to say, well, which one are you affecting, right? And what's your tolerance? So if you're talking about homebrew that affects the players, you know, and the players' classes and their mechanics and stuff, well, then that's a different type, and you have to consider whether you want to do that or not. Now, some people homebrew the crap out of that anyway, and the game they run bears very little resemblance to D&D in its core rules. And who's to say that they're right or wrong? It's just what they want to do, you know? So I don't know. It's just your personal taste and preference. I can tell you what I do, but it doesn't really matter what I personally do. It really just depends on what you find to be fun and your players find to be fun and what you all enjoy at your game, because nobody can really tell you that your way is wrong if you're all having fun, right? And nobody's like, you know, losing limbs in real life. Are there any dungeon masters you look up to? There are dungeon masters I respect. I feel like in a general case, the dungeon masters I most respect are the ones that keep their groups going for long periods of time. The ones that run campaigns and adventures that are so compelling and awesome that they have had the same players for years. And they're all having fun and they're all loving the game, you know. That to me says a lot. It says a lot about that friendship. It says a lot about that gaming group. It says a lot about the dungeon master's, you know, ability to make a compelling game that everybody just loves and stays for. It also says a lot about those players, you know, because it's not just the dungeon master, it's also the players that they're contributing to the success of that gaming group too, you know. And so whenever there's a gaming group that's been together for like years and decades and they just all keep playing together, you know, and they all love it and stuff, that says a lot of good stuff about those people, you know, and the camaraderie and the enjoyment that they're getting out of the game. And so that's the sort of thing that I look at and be like, yeah, that's awesome. That's really, really cool, you know. I'm not gonna give you specific names and stuff. I'm just saying in general, that's the type of thing that I like. That's awesome, you know. Now, if you want to look at like flamboyant people that are really like descriptive and well spoken and can do like cool voices and stuff like that, that's less impressive to me than like a group that nobody knows about, but they all love playing the game together and they've been together forever. That gets a lot more respect from me because those dungeon masters, they all have different styles and stuff. They don't have to, do the stuff that we see on TV in order for their players to love playing games with them. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't look up to any of our famous dungeon masters out there in the way that I respect dungeon masters that just play their game and they've been playing it for decades and all their players love it and they're all having a great time. That's more impressive to me than somebody who has particular unique skills and they're able to put on a performance. Yeah. All right, oh, it's time to do our giveaway. All right, let's draw the winner to our giveaway. I was just saying that I really have to go bio, but it's time to draw the winner to the giveaway. All right. I didn't miss any super chats, did I? Nope, I'm good. Yay! All right, we're gonna draw the winner to our giveaway and then we're leaving. All right, I gotta get to my giveaway thing. Where's my giveaway screen? There we go. All right. Draw the winner. Hold on a second. Refresh this page. All right, I got it. Whee! Drawing the winner, baby. Drawing the winner. All right, let's see what we got going on here. And all right, the winner is Alistor's Knight. Alistor's Knight. First name Nathan. You are a winner, sir. I'll be sending you an email, dude, and we'll get you hooked up with some cool crap. All right. Yay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are finished. It's been wonderful hanging out. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next week. There will be no stream. It's like Christmas vacation time, so no stream next week, but we'll see you the week after that, and we'll be hanging out again. So thanks for hanging out. It's always good seeing folks, and well, I don't get to see you, which is kind of unfair. There should be a stream where like I can see all of you, but you can't see me. That would be a cool stream. All right, I'm leaving. Goodbye, guys. Love you. Bye. In stream.